Every morning you groom me.
People didn't hear. People didn't hear what your chorus was.
Yeah, it was grooming gangs, grooming
That was pretty
gangs.
bad.
Every morning you groom me. It's not funny, man. This is very, very messed up.
It's a very serious topic, everyone. Very serious topic. I wanted to say TikTok, time to rock, but I wasn't sure my voice would hold up. I should have said like a tic tac, time for my voice to crack like I'm inspiring philosophy. But we had to go ahead and go live because we wanted to cover this, and there have been too many topics building up. AP, we could do 3 shows a day for the next week and not catch up. Hey, why don't you tell everyone real quick, like what you went viral for today?
Yeah, I don't even know why I'm here hanging out with you when I'm famous today. I'm a celebrity. With no business being here, because earlier today, yesterday I saw this thing that Andrew Tate was threatening this girl who was like 20 years old and who was actually a victim of a grooming gang.
Mm-hmm. Extremely messed up.
And she went after Andrew Tate and traffickers and things like that, and he started bullying her and sending his people after her and threatening her, and then eventually forced her into just taking things back. And she said, I don't want to deal with all of this, so I just deleted everything I said. And then he on top of that started bullying her again, and then added a tweet saying, anyone who calls me or my brother a rapist will get sued.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw that and I thought, really, bro? So I took a screenshot of that and I highlighted it and said, Andrew Tate is a rapist. And yeah, that started blowing up. I think it has
yeah, want to go check that out real quick.
And then people started joining in and saying it with me. It has 100,000 likes right now, and
100,000 likes.
And 2.5 million views.
2.5 million views. And anyone who wants to do a quick search for Andrew Tate as a rapist or something like that, check out how many people are joining in.
It's powerful. It's awesome. I'm proud of that.
I'm proud. It is, because that's a really messed up situation. Like you're looking at him bullying this victim of a grooming gang. And watching her like, okay, fine, I just please, I'll do whatever you want, and her basically begging to leave her alone because of him and all his fans, and him just piling on, right? Ha ha, no, you'll make me a sandwich. Ha ha, I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna do it anyway. Ha ha, even though she's apologizing, it's not enough. And it's like, here's a girl who's been traumatized by men, and then you've got a guy who likes traumatizing women. And him taking advantage of that. And then we're sitting there looking at it. He only does this with a certain type of people. If you say, man, screw you, come and sue me, little punk, right? Then all of a sudden, oh, no, I don't want to mess with this guy. As soon as he finds someone who's, no, please don't sue me. Then he goes after them, right? He's what a scumbag, man. He likes abusing women. He likes psychologically abusing and traumatizing women, and it makes him feel like a real man. It's absolutely pathetic. Oh, let's make him prime minister. It's good to see he's moved on from the Islam grift. So he was a kickboxer for a while, then found out he could be a webcam guru and spend all his time pretending to be a woman online, talking to men, getting them off. Then he realized it's an even bigger grift to do the training. So I could do training. I could do an entire course on how to do this for a bunch of 15-year-olds and stuff who think they can do the exact same thing. Then I'll be their heroes. Then he started getting called out for that, started getting into legal trouble. So then he rebranded himself as a self-help guru. So I just tell young guys to work hard and get Bugattis. What's wrong with that? And following that, it was, hey, guys, I'm a Muslim. Look, I'm being persecuted. They're persecuting me from being a Muslim. The Matrix is coming after me for being a Muslim. And now it's, we must stop Britain. We must stop Great Britain from being invaded by Muslims. No, I am the savior. It's like, what is it? Every about 2 years now, this guy comes up with a completely different grift and flips it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He wants to jump onto the next and the thing is we predicted this, right? I mean, a long time ago when this was when he first converted to Islam, allegedly converted to Islam, and made it public, we predicted that this will not last. He will probably move on. He will probably at some point leave Islam and move on to the next thing, and probably be at some point against Islam and so on. I mean, we could go back to our live streams that we had about this, and we predicted this kind of stuff, and it's happening right now. He is openly saying things like that he is not afraid of going against Muslims, and that Muslims cause hate by supporting disgusting things, and there is a Muslim problem in Britain, and he's saying things like that. And of course, you would expect now somebody like me to be like, oh, okay, well, let's drop our disagreements and look at this. He's saying something interesting. No, I don't care. I don't care if he comes in personally, greets me and personally says that I am the most fantastic and the most right person in the world, and he will agree with whatever I agree, and he will give me $5 million. I will still maintain that this guy is an absolutely horrible, disgusting human being,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and that nothing at all is redeemable about nothing is redeeming about him. He's just he's horrible no matter where he goes.
Yeah, it is. It is weird after all these years of him jumping on various bandwagons to get followers that today you'll have people going, "Wow, Andrew Tate's on our side now."
He is never on your side. No matter what side you are on, Andrew Tate is never on your side, no matter what he does.
Tate is always on Andrew Tate's side, and
Yeah.
he does whatever is convenient for him at any given moment. And
Yes.
occasionally that will line up with you. That will line up with you, and you'll say, "Oh well, I have to agree with him because he's on my side." No, he's on the same side. He has always been on his own side.
Yes.
And you should be able to see this because literally at the same time that he was saying, "I'm going to come in there and save you, save Great Britain from these grooming gangs. I will be the top G as Prime Minister, and I will save you." He's literally on trial for being a groomer and a trafficker. That's still going on. And simultaneously, he's bullying and harassing victims of the grooming gangs.
Yeah.
And he clearly loves doing it. It's his favorite thing. Bullying women is his favorite thing on the planet to do. There's not even a close second.
Tis. And there are some people going around like, oh, but don't you know that the case has been dropped and he's been declared innocent?
Idiots.
I don't know if we have to go back and do a whole thing again, like an expose, do a whole
You
analysis
should
of
get
what's
Murdered by
actually going on.
Crayons and
But
what's the other one?
yeah,
Oh, something
Milk Bar.
Milk Bar. Yeah,
Yeah.
get those guys on. And let's go through all this stuff one day.
Nothing like that happened. The case has not been dismissed. He is not free. He is still facing multiple charges, awaiting trial, tons of evidence against him. The only thing that did happen recently was that the court sent back the case for review, saying you have to fix a few things before
Mm-hmm.
we proceed with this.
Yeah, every time they say that, like the judge will say, "Hey, say to the prosecutor, hey, this was prepared improperly or something like this. You have to revise this and resubmit it, or drop this part or something like that." Then Tate instantly, "The charges have all been dropped," and his fans, "All the charges have all been dropped. We're free. We're free." Meanwhile, where's your world tour, sport? Where's your world
The
tour,
funny thing
Freeman?
is, just a week or two ago, he was saying, "We're free, case dismissed, we know victory." Today he's tweeting, and the Matrix is going to stage an attack. The Matrix is going to come after us, and I can see through the Matrix, but this does not mean that I will not go to prison. I probably will. He actually tweeted that today.
Probably go to prison. It's almost like the charges haven't been dropped. Weird.
Uh-huh.
I'm so confused. Anyway, so we got that. We got Pierce Morgan just interviewed Gad Sad, to his credit, because they were going after each other on Twitter a bit. But Pierce actually, again, to his credit, he didn't run from it. He actually said, "Hey, we're going back and forth. Why don't we just do this? Why don't we just do this on a show?" So there's that, and then what else happened? What else happened? You were mentioning there's
He
something.
also had Mehdi Hassan on on the same
Oh yeah.
episode, and about the whole grooming gang issue and Elon Musk's tweets and Islamophobia. And Mehdi Hassan went just completely crazy, and the audience reaction is quite appropriate. People are there is a turning tide right now, and people are saying this Mehdi Hassan guy makes me Islamophobic and makes me right wing, and so on. Yeah, we have to look at
Great
that as
job,
well.
Mehdi. Yeah, we've got that. We've still got the Elon going back and forth with people like with people supporting the grooming gangs and so on. We've got Hijab flipping out and doing the exact same thing, but trying it with Elon. Right? Hijab has one method to do what I want, and I'll praise you and say, "Well, what a great person you are." And if you don't do it, I'll say, "Oh, what about your family? Oh, let me investigate your family." He does it every time and doesn't realize it doesn't work with everybody. With some people, it has the exact opposite impact. And it's just hilarious because Elon is someone who could instantly draw attention to anything he wants to. He has that ability. He has that ability right now. And you've got Muhammad Hijab and so on. Tactical genius that he is. Let me annoy this guy as much as possible and insult him and his family as much as I can. Great. Keep doing that, Hijab. Please, Muhammad Hijab. I know we've had our differences in the past, but as an olive branch, let me say, keep doing that. Keep annoying the guy who has the ability to just absolutely crush you at any time, just by drawing attention to various things.
That's a
Please do that.
powerful,
Keep doing
powerful.
that. Don't try to get along with him. I mean, here it's a weird situation because they're like the smartest thing Muslims could have done. The smartest thing. Like how do you not read a person? The absolute smartest thing you could have done with Elon Musk would have been to quote tweet him and say, Elon is absolutely correct. As a Muslim, I condemn this, and we should go after the grooming gangs to weed them out. That's something we can all agree on. He would have been happy to see Muslims agreeing with him and other people being on his side, and he would have shared that tweet, drawn lots of attention to you, and the whole thing would have a completely different vibe right now. Instead of, oh, he's attacking us. Oh my goodness, we will expose him and his son. Oh, idiots.
This
Absolute
is where
idiots.
you're presenting them the instructions manual right here, but they don't even get it. They will
No,
still go on the attacking Elon Musk and call him an Islamophobe.
because
And what's
they have no concept of actually changing the method based on who you're talking to. It's all we have
yeah.
one method. It's the people we like, we do this. The people we don't like, we do that. And there is no plan B.
And then the consequences of that, Elon Musk is now responding to Islamophobia accusations by saying things like, by retweeting or agreeing with or quote tweeting with, good point, things like, why is there no Christophobia or Hinduphobia or Sikhophobia? There's only Islamophobia. He tweeted something like that and said, he retweeted something like that today and said exactly. So this is what you get when you attack this guy with the Islamophobia
Mm-hmm.
label, for example.
And also at the end of this is not a guy who backs down from pressure. I mean, you had instead he calls it out and blasts it. There was that famous clip where he's on stage and he tells like Disney to go F themselves with the president right there, right? He starts telling these guys, he's like, you guys coming up to me telling me, oh, I have to change my platform to do this, or you're going to pull your money. You trying to control me with money? F. He just tells them to go F themselves,
Oh,
right?
if you, yeah.
Yeah, that's how he reacts to people trying to push him into doing something. What are the Muslims? Oh, let's try to push him into doing what we want through insults. Brilliant. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. It's bound to work. In fact, Muhammad Hijab, all you guys, I think since this isn't working so far, maybe you're not pushing hard enough. Maybe you need to come after him even harder, man. Maybe you need to be blasting away even more. Maybe you need to become obsessed with taking down Elon Musk. Do it. It's the only way. It's the only way to protect your religion.
That's very elongated. Um, Another thing that happened is, speaking of Elon Musk, today he held a Spaces conversation with,
Did you say racist or spacist?
both. He held a racist Spaces conversation with the leader of the German political rising party AfD, uh, Alice Weidel. We also talked about her recently.
Vital
After,
voice.
yes, exactly.
Sorry.
We talked about her after the terrorist attack in Magdeburg on the Christmas market, where
You liked
she
her. You liked her
rallied.
based speech.
Yeah, she's pretty based, and they had a conversation together on Spaces, where they talked about various different things, and it was also crazy because the European Union announced that they had assigned 150 people to oversee this conversation to make sure that during the conversation between Elon Musk and Alice Weidel, no European laws are broken. So they
People
were
are
really,
going nuts, man.
yeah, they're really like monitoring this. And during this conversation, Elon asked her. Um, he asked her a few things, like the things that people are curious about, because some people depict it as this Nazi party and so on. So he said, "What is your stance on Israel?" And she said, kind of like, it is complicated. Then he clarified and said, so the question would be, do you unequivocally support the existence of Israel? And she said, of course I do. And we have to defend Israel. We have to support Israel.
That's not a
Uh,
very Nazi thing to say.
and then she followed up and said, but more importantly to us, she said, um, we have to defend the people in our country. And in our country right now, um, Jewish people are not safe. And then she went very clear and explicit and said, the Jewish people in our country, in Germany, are under attack by Muslims, by Muslim crime. And then, so she said Muslim crime. She didn't even mince it. She didn't even say like Islamist or radical or anything. You're muted, David. I don't know why you muted yourself.
Radical Islamist.
Yeah, she didn't say radical Islamist or anything like that. She just said Muslim crime. And then she went on and said that the other parties did nothing to protect Jews, and Jews are currently in danger by leftist terrorists and Muslim terrorists. These are her words. And we are the only ones who actually will protect them and change things here, is what she said. So very interesting stuff.
Weird for Nazi party unequivocally supporting the Jewish state and saying we need to protect Jews at all costs.
Yeah, yeah.
If I didn't know better, which I don't, I might think that people are just calling them Nazis to marginalize them.
I did not see that coming.
All right, let's take a couple super chats. And then, anyway, the point of all that, ladies and gentlemen, was 2025 is shaping up to be a really interesting year so far. Lots of interesting things to discuss and talk about. We wanted to take a closer look. We sort of looked at it as kind of we looked at a little bit of this the other day on AP's channel when we saw this guy who really annoyed us. We didn't watch much of it. We're actually going to go through it now, and we're going to look at what the Quran says, because he claimed to be an expert on this issue, and we're going to make fun of him. Take a first couple super chats, and then we'll jump into that. Took a look at one of the main Shia books, Al-Kafi in Arabic so far. Age of Consummation is 9 to 10, Racism, Dimitude, etc. Not sure if this book is equally legally binding as Al-Bukhari, though.
I think it is the primary book in Shia.
That's basically the Shia Bukhari.
Yeah, yeah. Shia scholars have been referencing that and using that as authoritative in rulings and so on.
Mm-hmm. How's your voice, David? Well, you can tell it's better than it was 2 days ago, but not normal still, probably 50%. Honey, chicken soup. Yes, been eating lots of chicken soup. Honey, I put some in my green tea, although I don't know why, because I'm sweet enough. I could just stick my finger in it. Salam, Al-Masih, Dizzle, and AP. Everyone hit that like button, or we know you Haktua all over that black stone. Hey, one way, is everyone saying that now and I've just missed it, or did you come up with that one?
I think people have been saying that.
Saying it Haktua all over the black stone.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny. And we helped the believers against the unbelievers, and we made the followers of Apologetics Roadshow uppermost until the last day, inshallah. That's true.
This is
That's true. And AP, hey, you should share something like that, AP, about Allah making you uppermost with your tweet that went viral. Very funny, wasn't it?
That'd be funny. Hilarious.
Oh, look at this. Why did Momo punch Aisha? She was being a minor inconvenience. Get it?
Nice.
The only thing Momo won't groom is his beard or the semen on it. It's pretty. I can't use the second part of that, but I'm going to steal the first one. So that's kind of a dad joke. You went from dad joke to Tate is therapist. That'll be your defense in court, AP, when he sues you. No, I said he was a therapist.
Yeah.
Saw AP cavity search prisoner Aidan Doyle. Doyle was smuggling copium into a debate. He lost very badly. Prison guard did nothing wrong.
Nicely put. Thank you.
We might need to do that. We might need to go through some of that if you want to check some of that out. AP and D Wood, what would be a model for an ideal society? 1950s America, 1970s Japan, 1980s Sweden, 1990s Germany, 2000s Israel. Which is best? I'm not sure there would be any ideal society. Societies, you always have a mixture of good features and bad features. You can definitely say certain ones are better than others. I'd have to think about it for a while before. But you lived in 1990. Wait, you were a little kid. Were you born in the 1990s?
Me,
When you were
yes.
born?
I was born in 1991.
So you saw 1990s Germany.
Yes.
What do you like better, 1990s Germany or 1970s Japan?
Well, I was in both, so I would say I would prefer 1970s Japan.
What about 2000s cricket? Turkey?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
I would say ideal society, in my opinion, would be 117 Roman Empire.
Yeah, that'd be good too. I'd go Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon. Wrong thing. Tate the top G Muslim groomer. That's true. That's what he does. Muslims on social media making the LA wildfires about Gaza. Fires are still burning, and they want to take all the attention away from the victims.
That's true.
That is stupid, isn't it, by the way? I mean, that is like one of the most pro Hamas areas on the planet. And you see, Allah is punishing them with fire. Okay.
Punishing the Jews. I know. Everybody is very surprised when they hear how old I am. Everybody always thinks I'm 20 years older than I actually am. And then when I tell people how old I am, they're like, what? What? So, I know. I get it.
Why do you guys think the Tates are going all anti-grooming gang despite knowing about and coming from the same town as Tommy and not saying a thing before? Because they're grifters. They just saw... They saw a way to get in good with a bunch of people who are on Twitter right now and to present themselves as the heroes and possibly to get on the same side with Elon, and it worked. He fell for it. Elon fell for it. He probably doesn't know a lot about some of the people he retweets and stuff. I'm sure he knows some things about Andrew Tate, but it's easy if you don't actually follow it and you don't actually follow Murdered by Crayons and so on and Milk Bar TV. It's easy to just hear Tate's fans constantly saying, "Oh, the charges were dismissed. It was all lies," and actually believe it.
It is called griftology.
It's called griftology.
Yeah.
Pierce Morgan will not interview Tommy, but has no issue platforming Tate. Yeah, repeatedly.
Yes.
And a bunch of people who are also really terrible. I'm really busy with an apologetics conference this week, and I didn't get to tell AP he did a great job in his debate, but he already knows he did.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
AP
you.
doesn't need your opinion. What is the opinion of a woman worth? What movie was that from? Oh, no, that was Princess Bride. Sorry. He goes, The Promise of a Woman. What is that worth? What are you listening to?
Nothing.
This is what you do? You sit here listening to Taylor Swift while we're...
No, I just accidentally opened a thing that I was rendering here.
So glad the grooming gang issue is finally coming to light and Muslims defend it instead of saying we have a problem will only tank Islam further. It is. This is not gonna be good for Islam, but it is an awesome way to start out 2025. Canada 2015, Justin Trudeau won vote as Prime Minister because of 2-year-old Alan Kurdi. Photo shown. Trudeau demanded 25,000 refugees of Syria. Photos of child victims in Nice and Stockholm attack not shown. Oh, it's basically saying, remember that picture of that kid on the beach and so on? Saying that that
Yes.
got him into power. I'm in UK. Everyone ignores valid issues about Islam. Nobody speaks out as they get called racist, yet they openly mock any other religion. Your channel helped me debate my family. I rejected Islam. Thank you.
It's good. Nice.
Very good. Very good. Very good.
Alhamdulillah.
And that's actually what we're talking about today. We're gonna go through a couple more of these, and then that is a problem. It's you have all these British people, and the moment you start even trying to look at where some of these guys might be getting their ideas about how they can treat non-Muslims, you get shut down in one way or another. Syrian refugee murdered girl in Vancouver, 2018. That's racist. You can't say that. Islamist grooming gangs can assault 250,000 girls, and the perpetrators still get treated like lost puppies by the country they violated. Meanwhile, Jews are condemned for defending ourselves from eliminationist regimes.
Well, here's the thing. I get your point, and I understand what you're saying, but you have to take one thing into consideration, which is that you see the general reaction, right? So when Israel does something or when Jews do something, we are dealing with a people or a population or a nation that is better than that knows better. So if you are better, if you are advanced and developed and intelligent and whatever it is, you are held to different standards. People expect more of you. If, however, on the other hand, you are underdeveloped, and you don't know better, which is why you engage in disgusting behavior, for example, then of course, people will treat you as like, these people are stupid. They don't know what they're doing. Can you really judge them? So that's why they are treating the Muslim immigrants who do bad things that way. They say these guys just don't know better.
Yeah, what AP is talking about there, ladies and gentlemen, is called the soft bigotry of low expectations. And the reason it's funny is the people who call you racist for calling out or exposing things like grooming gangs and so on, those are the people who are actually racist, because their actual position is, oh, you can't condemn and judge these people for doing this. They don't know any better. They're just like, what are they? What are they that you cannot expect them to not
They're stupid.
gang rape and drug and pimp little girls? What are they? You think they're so far below you. You are so far beyond them that you are not even in the same moral realm, and that's why you treat them differently. And then when you've got people who say, whoa, you can't treat you can't treat girls like that. Look what this community is doing. Say, no, you're racist. What? We're racist for holding them to the same standard we'd hold anyone else to? Weird views. Weird views here, ladies and gentlemen.
Would you really go ahead and judge a bunch of children that are fighting in the streets the same way that you would judge adults that are punching each other? No, you wouldn't. Would you really judge two normally developed people who engage in wrong behavior the same way that you judge two mentally severely underdeveloped and incapable people? You can't really blame them. Leave them alone. It's bad.
Here we have, do you guys know of Enoch Powell? Just got a YouTube vid with him on the Dick Cavett show in the 70s talking about his concern with Pakistani immigration to the UK. Apparently no one listened. If you find a clip of that, send me. You have to send me the title because you can't share links on my channel, but you just send me the title of the video because it'd be cool to go through something like that. Shout out to Fisherman's Corridor for gifting 20 Apologetics Roadshow memberships. Mosh Cohen gifted another 5 Roadshow memberships. We actually have people are sending in lots of super chats today. I don't know why. It's early on. Maybe they miss the melodious sound of my voice and are happy to have me back. But anyway, we'll have to save some of these for a little bit because we want to jump into this video. Heard prominent Muslim condemn grooming gangs say that widely held belief about Aisha being 6, etc., was responsible but also untrue. Well, that's great. We love it when someone says, "Don't do this," and this isn't true. Problem is, vast majority of Muslims believe in sources which make it completely undeniable from their perspective, unless they're trying to deceive you. Not a Tate fan, but my toxic side loves to see the left lose. Yeah, there are people. I also like when people annoy other people who need to be annoyed. But Tate just has so much going against him, it's hard to. Tate is popular largely due to the left's otherizing and belittling of young men. Yeah, what you would say is certain people made a group of people feel bad, and Tate saw it and took advantage of that. That's Andrew Tate in a nutshell. He looks at a group of people who are feeling like they're being silenced or victimized or just being bullied or something like this, and he jumps in and, hey, I'll be your champion. I'll be your champion right now. And people fall for it.
That's what they do.
Let's see. Will there be this week in Jihad on the 16th and 25th? I don't know. That depends on Robert's traveling, and his travel plans change quite frequently. It's pretty common for him to get a, hey, we need you to jump up here and speak real quick or something like that. So the drill must vid door bros hilarious. What is this? Do you understand this?
No.
We do not know what this means. The Haktua on the Black Stone was started by me, but it seems like people are using it more and more. So he had to give credit where credit is due. He's the one who started it. All right.
So from this, I understand that it was somebody else who started it.
Indeed. All right, guys, we have more super chats, but let's go ahead and start watching this. I've got the whole episode here. There's the section with Jordan Peterson. I haven't watched that. In fact, I've only watched like probably a couple of minutes of this whole thing. So there will be stuff. What we want to get to is where the guy's talking about what the Quran says, so we can go through that.
Political commentator Ava Santina, uncensored contributor Esther Krakow, and the public philosopher and writer Jack Symes, and the co-host of Steve Bannon's War Room, Natalie Winters, over in the States. So welcome to all of you.
Wait,
Thank you for being so... What?
Why is she not on the thumbnail?
Oh, the girl with the boobs?
What? Excuse me.
You want her on the thumbnail?
I'm not sure what
you're
talking about.
Everyone, AP wants a thumbnail that is just everything cropped out except this lady's boobs.
All I'm saying is that
we know exactly what you're saying. What you're saying is not a mystery here.
All I'm saying is that she's the focus.
Okay, you're saying change the thumbnail to incorporate her maximizing her assets in political discussions.
Yeah, like her.
I said maximize. You know, it's funny. I said maximizing assets because that was my first communications class professor, Sandra Jo Washington. It was my first semester. I was straight out of prison. It was my first semester, and she was talking about maximizing your assets. And she's talking about women, ladies. If you're in a room with a bunch of guys and you really want them to not take their eyes off you. She said it without saying it, right? She starts poking her chest out. And she says, you might want to dress in a way that sort of, maximizes your assets. And then when the girls were giving their speech, because we had to give speeches in the class, when the girls are giving their speeches, they're all coming in with this super low cleavage and stuff like this, and their boobs all sticking out. And she was giving them like points for that.
Nice.
Interesting stuff. So apparently this woman was a student of Sandra Jo Washington at some point.
Patient, but I thought it was important for you to listen to that interview, Esther, with Jordan, because he contacted me. He wanted to talk about this, and he's done a number of interviews with Tommy Robinson, for example. It's an interesting argument he makes, and I don't necessarily poo-poo it at all. Actually, having heard his rationale, which is you don't have to like the messenger. In fact, it can be pretty disagreeable.
British people still say poo-poo. Don't poo-poo that idea. Why are you confused by that? Do you not say poo-poo in Germany?
Pee-pee.
Did the Germans not say? All right. Well, but that's not the saying. That's not the saying. The saying is don't poo-poo that idea.
Doo-doo.
Quit interrupting Pierce with your
not
understanding sophisticated British terminology.
Robinson indisputably is. But you can also appreciate that for a long period of time, we showed a clip there from 2011 on Newsnight, where Robinson was very passionate about this issue of the rape gang scandal, that this has been somebody who's been trying to persuade people to take it more seriously for a long time.
Absolutely. And I think the reason why he connects with us so much is because he's from those communities. I wrote a sort of a small piece about, imagine if this was in Lahore in Pakistan, and you had men from South Shields and Leeds, raping Pakistani women with impunity. I mean, that's the kind of sentiment it would draw. That being
she made a good point right there. She said, if the situation were reversed and you had a bunch of British men in Pakistan drugging, raping, pimping young Muslim girls and so on, be a completely different issue. In fact, it would be international news the entire time it's happening. They would send in the United Nations to do something about that. But it's Great Britain, so they deserve it, apparently.
I think it's very clear that a lot of sort of his anti-Islam sentiments did colour this. So there was a GLC SC academic report that was released in 2020, which actually found that it was the Pakistani cultural heritage of these men that were more tied to these rapes than their Muslim heritage, because they did a sort of a focus group comparing them to Bangladeshi men, who are almost exclusively Muslim as well.
Yeah.
And they found that Bangladeshi men were either underrepresented or not represented at all in these mass rapes. So it was actually a cultural problem. And you can see it when you look at the rape of sort of, the situation with rape in Pakistan, for example. So 72%, up to 72% of women in custody in Pakistan are either sexually or physically abused by police officers. The penalty for rape in Pakistan is life imprisonment or hanging, because it's such a serious problem. So these sort of, it's almost like the perfect storm, having these predominantly male tight-knit communities coming from a place like Pakistan that has that cultural issue already, being in the UK, basically acting with impunity with regards to this, and having such close family ties as well. I mean, I know this is uncomfortable. Pakistan is one of the most inbred countries in the world.
Ooh, hear that? Here's what's funny. She's connecting that to why they have a why they like gang raping so much. They're the most inbred place in the world. Of course, they're going to be weird.
The funny thing is, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm so sick of how polite these conversations are all the time. And then she says this.
Which is true, guys. You can look up. It's with first cousin marriage. It's like through the roof in Pakistan. And if it happens every once in a while, it's not a huge issue. When tons of your population keep marrying their first cousins, it's very, very bad. Very bad.
Who is this woman? Like, what's her name again?
Don't know. People are pointing out that she's hot. People keep pointing out that she's hot. Yes, we know she's hot. We have eyeballs, ladies and gentlemen. You do not need to state the obvious. But so there's a couple of issues so far. So one is that Jordan Peterson, again, I didn't see that part, but Piers Morgan's sort of assessment of it was that Jordan Peterson was saying, why are you going after the messenger? If a guy tells you something about something that's going on that's really, really bad, why are you going, oh, but I don't like this about him? That's no time for that guy. If your house is, if you're in a fire, your house is burning down, you can't get out, and the guy who comes through your door to rescue you is, let's suppose he's a pimp. Let's suppose he's a pimp. You're going to be like, I don't want you rescuing me. You're a pimp. No, that's you can be okay. You're a pimp. I condemn that, but yes, please help me in this situation because I need help right now. So the question is with Tommy, if he's the one warning people about the grooming gangs, and no one else is willing to do it, you're going to say, oh well, what did they bring up? They said something about him. What are the things that they bring up? I did see a little bit of this. Some sort of fraud or something like this at some point, mortgage fraud or something like this, used another guy's passport Things like this. So these are the things they bring up and say, "Oh, you can't listen to Tommy." And then, of course, that he's anti-Islam and so on. So I guess the idea would be just let these grooming gangs continue to bang little girls because otherwise you'll be associated with Islamophobia and be anti-Muslim and so on. Something along those lines. Pretty creepy and disgusting reasoning. But they're right. There is a reason Tommy rose to prominence. People looked around and said, our leaders, our politicians, our judges, the police, they do nothing to stop this. In fact, they protect these guys. We need to rally around someone who's actually going to call it out. And that happened to be Tommy Robinson. And now but he's an Islamophobe, so it was better to just throw him in prison.
You have these people that have close family ties. They're often cousins or second cousins or all of that in these communities that are acting basically with each other. That's why in places like Rochdale, 1 in 7 of these predators were Pakistani men, and they basically all knew each other. It was that condensed.
Yeah, it was.
And so I'm glad for Tommy Robinson, raising this issue. However, we have to look at the facts and what a lot of this is suggesting. This wasn't Indian men, for example, of Indian heritage, Hindu.
No, it was a very specific. Yeah, look,
it was very specific.
Very specific to British Pakistani Muslim men in the north of England. I mean, Ava.
So the other issue that's relevant there, we'll talk about this when it comes up. The other relevant issue there, ladies and gentlemen, is that she's pointing out, hey, but it's Pakistani Muslims. It's vastly Pakistani Muslim majority, not necessarily other Muslim groups, and therefore it can't have anything to do with Islam. And that's the issue we'll be dealing with.
Okay, well, I'm fine with that to an extent. I would say I'm fine with it. Okay, let's accept that as let's just say okay, we will accept that, but we will grant that point. Let's say okay, maybe it's not about Muslims, maybe it's just about Pakistani Muslims. Maybe it's just about Pakistani. Okay, fine. I'm fine with that as well. Start addressing that, and start taking care of that problem, and at least it's something.
Yeah,
better than something. Better than just acting like, oh no, there is no problem at all. This is racist.
I've sort of wrestled with this because without Elon Musk amplifying Tommy Robinson in the last week, would we be having this big renewed debate about the whole scandal, which many feel, including me, having studied it all,
you're soft.
That's literally what I just pointed out before we started watching, that the Dawa guys are now going after Elon when Elon has the power to draw attention to any issue on the planet. Any issue, the killing of apostates, let's say, that Elon wanted to, what's going on with it in the Muslim sources about killing apostates? What's up with this? He could draw massive worldwide global attention to that in a heartbeat. And instead of trying to be nice to him, which is what you would do if you're smart, they're insulting him and his family. Keep it up, guys. You're doing a bang-up job.
Powerful.
Does seem very unfinished business. In other words, there is no accountability. No one ever went to prison for the cover-up. There are still many of the people who perpetrated this who've never been brought to justice.
The council
many
workers
who were supposed to have been deported have not been deported, etc., etc. There are many, many more victims likely out there. I mean, would we be having this debate right now?
No.
If Elon hadn't poked his big nose in,
nope, you wouldn't.
With his very powerful amplifier of his own platform.
Well, hold on. Why did you call him Big Nose?
His very big nose.
Are you saying something about South Africans, Pierce?
And been invoking
his very big nose into our business.
Tommy Robinson, who happens to be in prison for something else, but has been banging his drum.
Well, I mean, it wasn't.
If Tommy Robinson was somebody else,
he would never have gone to prison for any of this.
He wouldn't be in prison for what he is in prison. He wouldn't be in prison for what he is in prison for. This wouldn't happen.
Yeah, the stuff that they lock him up for are things that I've never seen I've been to prison. I've never seen anyone locked up for that. That's stuff you fine people for. They throw him in prison for it. Why? Because they're really mad at him for other things. And so they say, oh, you walked across the street jaywalking. Oh, well, that's 2 years. You got to do 2 years. That's how they roll.
It's such an insult, such a poor, horrible, ridiculous attempt to insult people's intelligence and to gaslight people. We're like, oh, well, why are you saying that Tommy Robinson is being persecuted? Why are you saying free Tommy Robinson? He's in prison for contempt of court and this and this and that. Yeah, really, man. You think that's why? He repeatedly went to prison? Mm-hmm. You think everybody who is at the airport who refuses to give the authorities the PIN code to his phone gets locked up and gets persecuted like this? You think everybody who I don't know, does some of these minor things that Tommy Robinson has been engaged in gets thrown into prison, into a horrible place in prison? No, it's because it's Tommy Robinson. It's because he goes against the government narrative. It's because he attracts attention to the things that are going on in the country. If you are one of those people who say, oh, Tommy Robinson is actually in prison for different things, go F yourself.
Yeah, you sound like an idiot. Ladies and gentlemen, I spent many years in prison. I never met one person who was in prison for contempt of court. I never met one person who was, they didn't have cell phones back then, but not giving a password to police or something. That is not something you send people to prison for all these years. The fact that they're saying, oh, contempt of court, oh, you wouldn't give your password to your stuff, and they send you to prison over it, means they're punishing you for something else that they don't want it to be obvious they're punishing you for. Here's the idea, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to, you can pretty much always find something that someone does that, like, oh, you went 2 miles over the speed limit. Can you, in theory, stop someone for that? Yep. Now imagine catching someone for that and like throwing them in prison or something and say, oh, well, look, you were speeding. We had to do something to stop you. It would be obvious that you're punishing them for some other reason. And that's what they're doing to Tommy.
Tommy Robinson, who reignited the debate in the last couple of weeks. That was actually done by a journalist, although that's underreported on X at the moment. I think, though... Yeah,
but that's the point, though. It was underreported generally.
Sure, but...
So my point is that it took the big, clunky club of Elon Musk, the most...
Did you hear that? She started saying, no, someone else was talking about it before that.
Oh, really? Ooh.
Yeah, we know someone was talking about it before. Look at this, watch this.
Banging his drum.
Well, it wasn't Elon Musk or Tommy Robinson who reignited the debate in the last couple of weeks. That was actually done by a journalist, although that's underreported on X at the moment. I think, though...
Yeah, but that's the point, though. It was underreported generally.
Sure, but...
So my point is that it took the big, clunky club of Elon Musk, the most followed person on his own platform in the world, to go boom, 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 and cause outrage and mayhem and offend loads of people and be very abusive about Keir Starmer and Jess Phillips and Gordon Brown and others. But did it take that to shake us out of our complacency about the scale of what has gone on here?
But I don't think it's us, and I don't think that the public are complacent. I think that successive governments have been complacent. And actually, I think that this has shown up the Labour Party's cowardice, because why on earth did it take this long for them to decide that actually they would like to implement some of the recommendations, if not all of the recommendations, from a report that was released 2 years ago? One thing I found really shocking, it was an entire week. It wasn't until Sunday at 1 p.m. did a press release arrive in my email inbox, which was from the Labour Party, that said, actually, we are going to implement these recommendations. It showed the cowardice of them, because why on earth...
Why hadn't the Tories implemented any of them?
No, but see, this is what I don't like. I don't like this whataboutery, because one thing is...
surely, Valley, you mentioned governments.
Which I don't think you're making, but I do think the Labour Party are making. And I think
it's funny, they're all confused. Wait a minute, the Labour didn't do it, the Tories didn't do it. No one wants to do anything about this, right? Because everyone is terrified of being called racist. You've been conditioned as an entire population that the worst thing that could ever happen to you is to be called a name. And you fell for it, and now you're suffering the consequences. So snap out of it.
And Wes Streeting.
I
The point
agree.
that they've tried to make is, well, they didn't implement this over the last 14 years or so. And you say, okay, but great leaders don't spend their time blaming other people for errors, that, you know, for things that they could actually fix in their power. If Wes Streeting or Keir Starmer really, truly believed that this was the most important issue of the day, when they came into government, they would have said, hey, where's that report? Where's Professor Jay's report? Let's start implementing those recommendations now.
Yes, I agree. Now, Jack, you've been very immersed in this subject. You went on Joe Rogan. You were personally abused by Tommy Robinson after that. You've also been very scathing about Jordan Peterson. You believe he's been platforming him regularly, getting millions of views, which he has, undeniably, and that he's been effectively enhancing Robinson's reputation in the process. And you said the impact of his cheerleading shouldn't be understated. He certainly cut a slightly different tone, I think, with me earlier than he has in his interviews with Robinson. And I kind of get where he's coming from to a degree. Did you change any of your view about Jordan's role in this, having heard him tonight, or not?
I think not.
Oh, we're finally getting to, I don't even know what to call this dude, Captain Doucheface or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I don't know what he's going to say here. He might be the most reasonable person in the world, but we saw the other day how he responded to someone. And I have to say, I've never seen that. I've never in my life seen someone more condescending, a more condescending total prick than that dude. Like the moment he started speaking. Weird, but let's see. Maybe he'll do better this time.
I think he's not prepared to say anything negative about Tommy Robinson. I think that's very telling.
Well, he was almost saying it's not relevant to the whistleblowing about the rape gang scandal. I kind of get that argument, is that you can have a view about the reason he's in prison,
Yeah.
which has nothing to do with that. You can have a view about his criminal past, being a football hooligan, beating up a policeman, mortgage fraud, passport stuff, all that stuff. You can have all these views about him, but you can also perhaps separate that from his relentless campaigning about what has turned out to be a scandal on the scale he kept saying it was.
But Jordan's not prepared to tackle Tommy's Islamophobia. It's not that he's done things in the past that are bad and they're unconnected to his anti-Islamic agenda. The reason Tommy was upset with me...
You hear this? It's the reason you can't listen to Tommy when he's calling out the grooming gangs is because he's an Islamophobe. Dude, they've already freaking beat you if that's how you think. We can't call these things out. We can't listen to people who call these things out because then we'd be siding with the Islamophobes. Dude, you are literally the reason they got away with raping, gang raping, pimping, drugging, beating, torturing these girls all these years. Because, if we call this out, we're on the side with the Islamophobes. It's what they use to manipulate you into doing exactly what you're doing in 2020. It's 2025. And you're still trying to deflect attention away from the issue and towards Islamophobia. What we really need to be worried about is Islamophobia. That's the real concern. You know what? Screw Islamophobia. You don't care if everyone in the entire universe is an Islamophobe. You stop dudes from raping little girls. It's kind of like a fundamental principle. And by the way, there's a little side note here, AP.
Well, there isn't.
There's an important issue here. Like people point out, look, Tommy did this, Tommy did that. Tommy's a football hooligan. Tommy's this, Tommy's that. Tommy's an Islamophobe. It's certain kind of people who will just go against the government if they feel they need to, right? It's certain kind of people who will go against the media, who will go against what their society is screaming at them and so on. There's a certain kind of people who will not give in if you call them names. And people with those features very frequently will have crossed some lines, even some legal lines in their past. Let me put this differently, AP. You ready for this? I'm about to make an astounding statement, everyone. I would trust a randomly selected correctional inmate in the United States. I would trust a randomly selected convict to protect a little girl from being abused than I would trust a randomly selected British citizen.
Ooh.
And what do I mean here? Of course, you do have guys who are actually locked up because they're pedophiles or something like that. But that would be a small minority. It's overwhelming prisoner culture to not put up with child molesters or anything else. These are guys, if they find out you hurt a kid, they would go after you and stuff. Why? You've got a bunch of guys who would not hesitate to beat the crap out of someone if they had a good reason. And they don't particularly care if you call them names. And you've got a different sort of population who, oh, well, that little girl's over there being gang raped and stuff, but I don't want to be called a name. Okay, I don't trust you, and I don't trust your entire population if that's how you are. So that's the situation. Matter of fact, I'll say this. Let me make it even more extreme. I would trust a randomly selected American inmate to protect a little girl than I would a British police officer to protect a little girl from being abused. That's how screwed up. That's how screwed up you are. That's how screwed up you are over there. And I'm trying. That was all a point about Tommy Robinson. You can be a person in prison and have committed crimes and still be the sort of person who would die before you let someone hurt a girl. You could be that. Those can all be features. You could be a guy who is a habitual risk taker, and it gets you into trouble, and you commit crimes and so on. But guess what? That sort of risk taker, that sort of, I don't care what people are going to say. I'm going to do what I want to do. That sort of person is the sort of person who won't back down because you're calling him names. He won't back down because you're calling him names. He would not be, what? You're calling me a name because I'm trying to save this girl? Care what you call me, idiot. Anyway.
Being called names is really bad, man.
It is the most important thing in the world.
And it started this little hate campaign of his against me was because I just quoted what he was saying on Twitter. I'll give the quote again because I paraphrased it last time. To be crystal clear, Tommy Robinson wrote at the end of last year, Palestine is a shithole full of inbred Islamist parasites and terrorists. Now, everyone who hears those words knows they're wrong. Tommy himself went back after I said this and just doubled down. Said it's true. It's full of terrorists and parasites and inbreds. He doesn't.
The chick immediately to his right just said that the place is massively inbred. She just said it. Your co-panelist she just supported a third of what you just condemned.
Wait,
is this guy want to move to Pakistan?
Let's hear what he said again.
You want to hear it again?
Yeah.
I paraphrased it last time. To be crystal clear, Tommy Robinson wrote at the end of last year, Palestine is a shithole full of inbred Islamist parasites and terrorists. Now, everyone who hears those words knows they're wrong. Tommy himself went back after I said this and just doubled down. Said it's true. It's full of terrorists and parasites and inbreds. He doesn't back down on it. Now, Jordan's responsible for this mess that's going on now.
But one second. I just want to draw attention in case everyone missed it. Right before I paused it, he said, Jordan Peterson is responsible for this. Sorry, good. So now Jordan Peterson is responsible for it.
That's true. I would personally not say that. It's a bit harsh. What he said afterwards, however, that it is full of such people, I would probably say that as well. And I don't think that there's necessarily anything hugely wrong with it.
Yeah, dude. Just go down there and let someone walk down the street and let some random Pakistani.
Not Pakistan. He's talking about. He says Palestine.
Oh, he said Palestine. Oh, okay. Huh. Oh, I mean, it's a pretty similar situation to Pakistan in that you do have perfectly nice people there and so on, but you have a disproportionate number of all these serious problems.
Powerful.
And I don't say that lightly because I've spoken to Jordan for hours. And
hang on, I wanted to back it up because he actually said this is Jordan Peterson's fault. Here we go.
Knows they're wrong. Tommy himself went back after I said this and just doubled down. Said it's true. It's full of terrorists and parasites and inbreds. He doesn't back down on it. Now, Jordan's responsible for this mess that's going on now. And I don't say that lightly, because I've spoken to
Jordan's
Jordan for hours. And in terms of philosophy of religion, we get along well, we have good conversations. But I think he should be ashamed of himself, because in the UK, we know who Tommy Robinson is. In the US, he has been Tommy Robinson's passport to gaining influence with Elon Musk, gaining influence with all of Peterson's followers. Last year, Peterson's video.
Don't know how to break it down to this dude, but we knew who Tommy Robinson was way before we knew who Jordan Peterson was. Just letting you know that.
Online, they amassed over 9 million views on his output on Tommy Robinson. 3 hours of conversation. None of that dangerous rhetoric comes up at all. This is a former Harvard researcher. This is someone who worked at the University of Toronto. This is someone who claims to have had a keen interest in Tommy Robinson for years. Why was no question asked about that?
So let me ask you a difficult question.
Because people don't have to ask your questions, you freaking idiot.
Yeah, here, let me break it down for you, Jack, which is about what you know. The reason someone like Jordan Peterson would be happy promoting Tommy Robinson, or at least his crusade against grooming gangs, is because Peterson would look at that and say, okay, this guy says mean things that are offensive to some people, but he also draws massive attention to the grooming gangs. Everyone else wants to silence him and silence all talk of the grooming gang. So I have to wonder, on the scale here, which is much worse? Drugging, grooming, raping, gang raping, pimping, torturing, even killing thousands of young girls, or saying mean things. This guy, Jack, would say in a heartbeat, saying mean things, it's much worse. It's much, much worse.
It is.
It's clearly much worse. And being called a name is much worse than all that's going. You're the problem, Jack. You're the problem. You're sitting here. Jordan Peterson is the reason that this horrible thing has happened, that Tommy Robinson, blah, blah, blah. Jack, you are the reason the grooming gangs were able to gang rape tens of thousands of young British girls. You're the cause. You provided the environment in which the rapists could flourish. You did it, dude. Scumbag. You're a total scumbag.
Listen, I hear what you say, and I watched the interviews, and they were certainly, he didn't go into all that background stuff.
Who cares?
Is there an argument, though, that if you're Jordan Peterson and you feel, as Elon Musk clearly does, genuinely incensed by the scale of the scandal over here, and you know that notwithstanding all this stuff, that you believe the bigger picture is what Robinson has been saying about the scandal, and you know he comes from Luton, where a lot of this stuff was also happening and so on. Is there a valid argument to say, actually, you can divorce the two things? The rest of it is part of the legacy of Tommy Robinson, and it's why I have a big problem with him, and why Nigel Farage won't even deal with him, which should say a lot, I think, to people in America. But that actually, on this one issue, he has been relentless, like a dog with a bone, very passionate, pretty well informed, it turned out. If you listen to the whole interview with Paxman back in 2011, almost everything he said has been borne out by events. Should we have listened more to what he said about the scandal and been less dismissive, as I've been certainly guilty of him just as a person?
I think there's something to be said about it. I think, in short, that Tommy has shed light on it. And there's no doubt about that. But I think it's interesting to look at what him and Jordan Peterson aren't interested in shedding light on. They're only interested in sexual violence when it comes to Muslims against non-Muslims. But they're quite happy to stand on a stage next to Russell Brand and the like. There's no... It's very much...
Russell Brand, man. It's the same thing.
Criticize them, but not the other. Who's on my team? Who plays into my anti-immigration rhetoric? I think that tells us a lot about what they really
Russell
care
Brand
about.
has been accused of things, but he hasn't been convicted of any crimes.
Well, Elon Musk was pictured with Ghislaine Maxwell. That's a photo that's very easy to find if you do.
You hear that? Elon Musk, a billionaire, took a picture, had a picture taken at a big event with the bottom B of another billionaire back in the day before.
These are the people talking about a serious problem. This is Britain, man. It's just.
Yeah, check this out.
I was pictured with Ghislaine Maxwell. I met her for 5 minutes at a book launch in 2012 or something, and that picture gets sent to me 20 times a day as evidence that I was part of Epstein's Island gang. I've never met him, met her for 5 minutes. There's a picture of me and her at a book launch where everyone else got cut out. So
hats off to Piers Morgan for that one, right? Hear what he just did? That was awesome. So she's like, oh, did you know? This is the case cracker. I mean, guys, this is amazing. You have all these guys who are gang raping little girls, and yet when the topic comes up, did you know Elon was in a picture with this lady? And Piers, to his credit, said, I was in a picture with that lady. That's what happens at events. People go around and click pictures of you with various people and so on. I saw her for 5 minutes. I never met Jeffrey Epstein. And yet, what did he say? He gets this sent to him 20 times a day. Oh, but here you are with Ghislaine Maxwell. Oh, my goodness. This is the proof that you're part of Epstein's Island. And so good to him for calling, hats off to him for calling out that girl to her face who just said that and tried to use that. Did you know he was in a picture? If you have some actual evidence, by all means, share it. But what did they bring up? What did they bring up for the hypocrisy? Think about the hypocrisy. These people who are being anti-grooming gang are rallying around Elon Musk, and there's a picture of him with Ghislaine Maxwell. Oh, and what about these guys? And they'll be on stage talking to Russell Brand. And Pierce pointed out he's been accused. He hasn't been convicted of anything. And guess what? Depending on how seriously you take those accusations, that would affect your view of Russell Brand. If you think, hey, these accusations are true, you definitely would want to dissociate with him. If you find out, yeah, he's actually convicted and they're true, then, you don't want anything to do with that dude. But anyway, to put that in the same ballpark as 250,000 girls being groomed, raped, gang raped, and so on is pretty insane.
These things, when you're a public figure of any kind, and obviously Musk is right up there, you're going to meet loads of people and get pictures with them. Doesn't mean you're party to anything they're doing.
Can I add on to the back of what you had to say just then about so what Jordan Peterson was talking about there? He was talking a lot about the Muslim faith, and he was talking about how this is an Islam versus Christianity debate. I mean, in the UK,
is he right about that?
Well,
should we have a grown-up debate about the impact of so many people coming in with a different view of?
Look, did you see it? Look, watch this dude. You can tell this is a guy who has a nervous kind of smile. I've seen people like that. Watch. He instantly starts grinning.
About the impact of so many people coming in with a different view.
See him? He starts smiling. That's exactly what he did when the lady who comes up later, as soon as you start talking about something, he grins. It's a defense mechanism to give himself an air of confidence and so on.
Yeah,
funny. Let's take a couple of super chats in here. Candace's new tune, Islam actually has some issues. Hey, is she saying that now, or is Magnifico just predicting that? Magnifico, are you predicting that? Or has she started saying Islam might have some issues?
I bet it's just a prediction.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
I think she's scared.
2 rupees, people. 2 rupees. But the people are... That's a good point. It is. See you all in hell. Oh, what is this weird stuff? Ahmed, thank you for the super chat. Ahmed.
What's wrong with you?
Do you Muslims also feel attracted to 6- and 9-year-old children like your prophet? Some do, some don't. My pleasure, everyone. Fisherman's Corner. They are retarded, David. The people are... This is very rude stuff. What's wrong? Why is everyone being mean here? Not everybody's perfect, guys. Wait, where'd that come from? We just saw it.
It's because I had a debate with Aidan Doyle.
Oh, yeah. Nobody's perfect.
Hamas wants to eradicate the Jews. His response was, not everybody is perfect.
It's an awesome defense that we can use anywhere. But Tommy Robinson is... Hey, nobody's perfect. Should use that. Big bro Enoch Powell, most maligned genius in UK lore. Now they got me interested. Bob from Speaker's Corner in Great Britain has been speaking against Islam for 4 years now, among others, some great brothers in Christ. Oh, yeah, we know Bob. We know Bob. Bob the Builder. When they holler jihad, we holler crusade. I said it first. Lol. Choke, choke, love. Love the show. Just kidding, just kidding. I see JK and I think joke, but it's actually just kidding, right?
It's just.
But it would work just as well if you just said joking.
No, it wouldn't.
I'm not convinced that AP is a non-Muslim because he terroristed that kid in the debate the other day.
That is a good point, but I don't know.
Some people have even accused him of being in the IDF because he genocided that kid. I saw people commenting that. Enoch Powell, Rivers of Blood speech cost him career and reputation. Why is, I'm screenshotting this. That is what I will look up. I wasn't sure exactly what to look up by the guy.
Rivers of Blood.
The drill music vid by Door Brothers. It's cool. What?
Oh, drill music. Who's Door Brothers? I don't know what Door. Drill is a rap, modern rap genre. You might not know because you're old. Yeah.
What? You think I don't know modern rap? Huh? You think I don't know Run DMC? The Fat Boys? The Beastie Boys? LL Cool J? Eric B. and Rakim? You think I don't know? You think I don't get down with Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde? Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh? Huh? There's a new saying, Alhamdulillah and P upon Muhammad, all hell Christendom. Love the show. Alhamdulillah.
That's pretty racist.
People are really, really mean. Mrs. Milk Jugs. Mrs. Milk Jugs actually went to University of Chicago, an elite university equivalent to, she shouldn't even need to dress like a strumpet, but I don't complain. Again, that's a theory in communication. It's a similar idea to why the Fresh and Fit podcast works, right? It's, hey, let's talk about stuff, but have something for people to look at while they're there. And then maybe people show up to look at something, but then they learn something along the way.
I mean, if it don't bother you.
But the people are inbreeding. Pierce is extremely happy to throw Pakistanis under the bus, but Muslims, no, there's no relation between Pakistan to Islam. Nothing. Absolutely. And guys, we are going to look at that eventually. We're going to look at that. We are going to get to what this walking clown emoji here says. And then we are going to go through quick overview of what the Muslim sources say. David, have you ever taken one of those DNA tests to see where your ancestors came to America from? AP is a Turk, so we all know his DNA. Yes, I did.
You did?
Yeah, some UK, a lot of German, Norwegian, 2.7% Jewish, 1% African. So vast majority European, and then I have some distant African relative, and somewhere a little more recent, a Jewish ancestor. Other than that, almost all European. I'm a peon. That's why I get along with IP and AP.
See.
This whole pulling back of the curtain confirms my faith. Decades of covering for evil for it to now blow up tenfold as a result.
Powerful.
Super chat being a pain won't let me ask if Muhammad said something about man is dark with heart something donkey, or heaven and hell having to do with shoulders for certain colors of people. Yeah, these are in the hadith. Yes, those things are in there. You can probably find those pretty easily in a search on. Go to sunnah.com and type in some keywords there. So Pierce won't have Tommy on. Butt plugs, Tate, and the like. Almost like he enjoys using the golden pine cone. You're sick. AP fans, please stay on AP's channel. They always say, we are Muslims first, all part of the Ummah. But when a crime is committed, they're like, no, it's not Islam. It's not Muslims.
It's just those specific Muslims, man. It's not all Muslims. We stupid.
Hong Kong governor, what, asked taxi drivers to learn Arabic, lol.
Hong Kong going as taxi driver to that's weird.
You'll never convince anyone in the Muslim community that is causing this issue when they believe it's appropriate to marry a 9-year-old. That is hard to convince them it's wrong when, well, we'll see. Was trying to ask if
It's very racist.
Was trying to ask if Muhammad said these things, saw questions about it on Islam Web, but they seem pretty racist. Much love and God bless. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the truth. Pierce is a coward, liar, and moral idiot when it comes to Tommy. Y'all said it was because of class. I think it's also cowering to the UK's version of leftist pressure to fall in line or else. Yeah, it'll be kind of a combination. It's like the pressure, but I mean, that's what we're saying. We're not saying Pierce in particular. We're saying like culturally, there's this, he needs to keep his mouth shut because he's in the wrong class. If he were in the correct class, we would let him slide on some things. For instance, again, we use Douglas Murray as an example because he blasts away at Islam too. He would meet all the requirements of an Islamophobe for these guys too. He says almost the exact same things that Tommy says, but he's fine and he can go on any British news program and so on. Why? Well, he's just the super elite educated Oxford type. And so he can say it. This working class guy, you don't get to say these things. And so, yeah, that's what we're saying. So we're not saying that Pierce is sitting back, oh no, Elon's lower class. It's there's this massive pressure and he's falling for it because that's the sort of guy you cannot allow to speak. Are these grooming gangs similar to Bakabazi? Similar in the sense that you have a bunch of creepy people doing a bunch of messed up things and everyone looks the other way because they don't want to appear racist. You had a similar thing with American soldiers who were in Afghanistan, and they would see men raping boys and they were told you can't do anything about it. Those are our allies. You don't want to rock the boat and cause division. And so there are guys now, there are special forces military guys who have PTSD, not from what happened to them in battle, but from watching that happen and having to stand down and not actually protect little boys from being raped. They're messed up. It messed them up psychologically. D Wood commits literal genocide on UK. YouTube's blocking the word. Not surprising from YouTube. Totally based. That's true. Tim Pool had a good pushback on Pierce's show yesterday regarding Tommy. Huh. I saw that Tim Pool was on there. I haven't seen that. We got a lot of stuff to check out, man. See clip on X at Timcast or Timcast News posted a few hours ago. YouTube blocking the @ symbol for me. Interesting. Tommy's description of Palestine, pretty accurate, surely, but so what? Yeah, I do think you should be pretty careful if your words are giving the impression that an entire population is one way and they're not. Then say a lot or most or something like that. Actually, make your language correspond to what the actual percentages and so on are to make it accurate. And because at the very least, when someone calls you out for it, you can say, what are you talking about? What I said was completely accurate, even if it hurt your feelings. I was so excited for Faraj before, but seeing his recent lies about Tommy, I now think he needs to either change or get out. What do you guys think?
Yes. I don't have much of an opinion on Faraj. Farage.
Yeah, I don't either. So I'm not looking at anyone and saying, oh, this is the guy who will save the UK. You guys might just need to start over.
He's kind of
as the
I've always
53rd state
that he is kind of the populist person for the pretend populist people. He's kind of like an elitist populist guy, and I don't know how much you can trust somebody like that.
Yeah, it's a rough situation, and I tend not to trust people until I see what they've done and beyond what they've said.
Powerful.
And so I don't know. The last hour will not come until big black rocks will cry out, "Ya Muslim, come and kiss me," and Muslims will smooch the big black stones.
You see?
Until a Muslim would say, "What's that, brother? The eyes are the leather strap of the anus, and the stone was my third eye in my odd collection, brother. Ooh, Allahu Akbar." This is weird stuff, man. Someone knows AP's weird, childish sense of humor, unlike my sophisticated sense of humor. For Westerners who convert to Islam, what's their psychology like versus the psychology of person of color who convert from Islam to Christianity? Can be all kinds of things. I think back in the day, it seemed to be more people who are interested in something exotic. Like, you don't want to go with what people around you believe. You want something exotic. These are the people who became Buddhists or became Muslims or something like that. More recently, you're talking like past 6 or 7 years, it seems to be that we have a generation that's just been programmed to crave attention and to do anything for attention. And then they find out, oh, here's what. And keep in mind, I don't mean they're deliberate. I don't mean they're thinking this deliberately. I don't mean they're thinking, oh, how can I get attention? Oh, if I convert to Islam. I say you get wired to look for attention and to react to attention. And then there's this big religion out there where if you join it, you're instantly a victim. You instantly get victim status because now you're a poor persecuted Muslim. And Muslims will shower you with praise, and people will also criticize you for doing it. But anyway, either way, you get tons of attention. And that's why I think we have it here. Oh, there's a part 2. Are people like me mentally deficient? Not all of these Westerners are converting to Islam because of a Muslim boyfriend or girlfriend. I didn't say it's very common. It's common for someone to convert because they're interested in a Muslim girlfriend or Muslim boyfriend. I'm saying that because I've seen that over and over and over again. And I've heard tons of stories. AP just mentioned this the other day about women who've converted to Islam and they were told, hey, convert to Islam, or they're told, hey, you can be a Christian or a Jewish woman and still be married to a Muslim. So marry me and everything will be great. And then things are fine until they have their first child and then everything changes. So we've heard all kinds of horror stories. Point is, there's lots of reasons. You can be attracted to someone. You could want something exotic religion, and then people tell you about how wonderful Islam is. I think most common reason right now is attention.
OMG, such an exotic religion.
Mm-hmm. These people are making me so angry. What we're up against? You are up against quite a bit. Purity test to discredit the narrative breakers. That's what you need. And that's easy to do with anyone, ladies and gentlemen. That's why they'll say, a political rival or something like that. What do? They'll say, look, this person was caught in a picture 7 years ago, but at this picture was this person, and this person was pictured at this when someone showed up with a Nazi flag. So you see, this is clear evidence that this politician is a Nazi. And yep, people fall for that stupid stuff. That Jack is a dishonorable Jack. He does not deserve the name Jack. Aiden is probably still sore from the spanking.
It's very rude.
Aiden has to sleep on his tummy.
It's very, very rude.
AP must own a ranch in Wyoming because he rode Aiden Doyle like he was doing an Arthur Morgan impression. Lenny, where'd you go? Where you go, Lenny?
Nice. That's a reference to a game, David.
Quit oogling the hotties or they'll get burkas. Yeah, we do have to do this.
That's true.
Islamists, groypers, commies, far leftists are competing on the worst of creatures award. There is a lot of... It is getting bad, guys. Robson spoke, jail. Mosque and churches, watch out. Robinson spoke, jail.
Powerful.
That's true. AP, next time you and D Wood team up for debates, slip honking in to see if he can hold it in and make me a mod.
I don't know. I don't know what you mean by that, but yes, I will try.
Yeah. Douglas Murray pretends to be gay for DEI protection. That'd be smart.
That's true.
We should all do that. We should all do that. We should all just suddenly become trans or gay or something like this and then claim victim status. AP, please talk to Destiny about Tommy Robinson. Would he listen to you? His leather strap is loose and stinky.
I don't know. I mean, it's been a long time since I talked to Destiny last. I could always jump in, but I don't really know.
A Christian woman is okay with a Muslim man until he fears disobedience. Then it's a 434. That's Surah 4, verse 34. Party. Yep. Please play the discussion Pierce had with Gad Saad. He shows Pierce how he platforms Islamophobists, Douglas Murray, Christopher Hitchens, despite disliking Tommy Robinson's messaging due to class and dialect. Interesting. That is, if Gad pointed that out, then that'll be cool. But will be watching that at some point. Yes.
Of perhaps democracy and those things.
Well, what I was going to argue was today the Archbishop of Canterbury steps down. And he's stepping down because he failed to report child abuse
in the church.
Yes. And,
I agree.
You know, I'm a Catholic.
I wish I'd made that point to Jordan.
Well, I'm a Catholic, and I have to say the Vatican is not clear of this crime in any sense of the word. You know, the Vatican is plagued by this crime. Those are white Christian or Catholic people. Yes. You know, I don't quite. I think it's so unhelpful for us to say that child grooming is exclusive.
But also that story in France.
Did you hear what she just said? I think it's dangerous for us to say. I think it's always watch out for this guy. This is called a straw man.
Straw man.
I think it's dangerous for us to say that child grooming is exclusive to Muslims. Literally, no one in history has ever said that. And you're responding about how dangerous it is to say something that no one has ever said. So if in case this woman is confused, you can have groomers. You can have a grooming pervert of any background, right? You could be an atheist grooming pervert. You could be a Christian who grows up in the church and so on, and is groomed yourself, and then later on you become a groomer too, and so on. You could be a Muslim groomer, a Buddhist groomer. This thing could happen. These things do happen. And when they happen, there is a tendency to cover things up or to push them to the side for the sake of the good thing that you want to protect. So there's a tendency, we don't want stories of what happened to these kids in this church to come out because it will, hurt the reputation of the church or something like that. Guess what? Ask a bunch of Catholics. Do you have to do it anyway? Yes, you need to do it anyway. Of course you need to do it anyway. Ask Christians, if children are being abused, do you need to expose that to stop it? Absolutely. Of course you do. And shame on the people who covered it up, trying to protect your reputation. Screw that. Protect the kids. Now bring up the Muslim grooming gangs in the UK. Oh, he's an Islamophobe. Stop this Islamophobia. They tried to silence you. They don't want attention drawn to it.
There's also the thing. This is just ridiculous. She does this whole thing of immediately going to the very, very stereotypical, the easiest, the simplest, and to be honest, most simple-minded thing to go to when it comes to an issue like this: religion and child abuse, or religion and sexual abuse, or something like that. Immediately she goes to, the Vatican, the Catholic Church. There have been studies on this, which show that when compared to other religious institutions, for example, there seems to be no significant difference in the prevalence of sexual abuse cases or child sexual abuse cases between the Catholic Church and other religious institutions. It seems to be quite similar. It doesn't stick out. It just seems to be more easily susceptible to finger pointed because the Catholic churches tend to be more organized under one wing, which is why you can say, look, the Catholic Church, which has its branches everywhere, it's plagued by this kind of stuff. There have been studies that have shown that this is not really true.
Yeah, you're significantly more likely to be molested by like a teacher at your school than you are by someone at at your church and so on. So you have things like that. But and then of course the thing she's getting right is that, and Peterson talks about this, that people with the dark tetrad of personality disorders, so your psychopaths, your narcissists, your Machiavellians and so on, your sadists, they will work themselves into groups where they can use the group to their advantage. They know that they can get away with things and so on. So that happens. That's why you have to expose it even if it hurts. That's very different from what happens in Islam, where it's like the entire religion is made for people to get away with it. I'm not saying all Muslims do that. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that it was founded by a guy with some serious problems, and his original followers had some serious problems, and these problems become normal in the religion, and they're actually they're valued and defended. And to this day, what do we see the Dawa guys defending? Child marriage. Why? This is part of their religion, right? So it's like the same thing when you say there's a terrorist attack and a guy's shouting Allahu Akbar and you say something about it and they'll go, oh, what about the IRA in these were Christian terrorists? Okay, yes. Any person from any background, even if they're being inconsistent with what they believe, can say, you know what, I'm going to adopt terrorism as a methodology. Any human being could do that. That doesn't change the fact that there's a reason it's much more common in one religion, because one religion actually advocates it and promotes it. It's not the exception. It's not some weird exception because you have some weird person. It's actually is well supported and well documented in the religion itself. That's a different kind of issue. So don't say, oh, but what about sexual abuse in the Catholic Church? If Islam actually promotes sexual abuse of non-Muslims, it's kind of a different problem, right? Does the Catholic Church actually promote the sexual abuse of kids? No. That's why these guys have to cover it up, and then they get in trouble.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
All right. Let's see.
It's very relevant because they were not all Muslim men doing it from a cultural or religious point of view. I mean, the terrifying thing, Esther, about that story was just the randomness of who these guys were. Yeah. They were highly paid professionals. They were local farmers. They were young, old,
plumbers,
black, white. I mean, they were everything and anything, right? And they were all joined in this horrendous thing.
Brotherhood of sexual sadism. I think the most potent point that Jordan made was kind of condensing sort of human nature in the sense that a single woman, like a woman just being there by herself, is primarily viewed in nature as a target for rape. And she kind of almost speaks to the most evil and base male human instincts. And I think that's cross-cultural. That transcends religion or anything like that. I think the reason why this is such a tricky debate is because religions don't exist in and of themselves uniquely. Like religions also develop alongside cultures, for example. So the reason why, again, you see no representation of Bangladeshi British people in these rape scandals, but you see it's almost predominantly
That's false. You do see.
I'm not sure why she keeps saying that. I'm pretty sure that when you look at the stats, there is a suspiciously high amount of Bangladeshi perpetrators among rapists as well.
I recall seeing. I don't remember which study, but I've seen Bangladeshis on there.
Yeah.
I don't know what she's on about.
Pakistani men, and I use the word Pakistani and Bangladeshi instead of Muslim because they're both basically Muslim. Yeah. Right. It's because of the culture, and it's like a.
But that's why I don't like the
but
generalized talk about
Muslims.
Like when Tommy Robinson says after 7/7. This is my message. All Muslims are complicit. Well, that's an Islam vote, right?
There are countries. There are countries with Muslims that have different cultures to other countries with different Muslims. I mean, the Muslims I grew up in West Africa, for example, are fundamentally different.
I can tell you, I've travelled to many Muslim.
So what they're pointing out is, hey, these things can vary from country to country. Yes, support for terrorism varies from country to country. That doesn't change the fact that it keeps springing up disproportionately in various Muslim countries, and that you can check support for terrorist attacks in a place like Pakistan, which is very culturally different from a place like Gaza, which is very culturally different from a place like northern Nigeria, and you'll have some why does terrorism keep popping up as the go-to method for lots of these people in completely different cultures? So yes, you have things vary from culture to culture, but if all those different cultures adopt the same ideology and there's a problem with the ideology, it will tend to start appearing in all these various cultures. And you take something like rape. So here, what are they talking about? They're talking about Pakistanis doing this. Where? In the UK. Pakistanis doing this in the UK. And they're saying, but it can't be a problem with Islam. Okay, what does Boko Haram in Africa do when they catch a bunch of Christian girls? What do? Oh, the same thing Pakistanis are doing to non-Muslim girls in the UK. What did ISIS, culturally completely different, what did ISIS do in Iraq when they were capturing non-Muslim Yazidis? What did they do? Turn them into sex slaves. Are you noticing a pattern here? So yes, there are different cultures, and these things will manifest in different cultures in different ways and to different extents. But there's kind of an underlying pattern that we keep seeing. So quit trying to silence people about it. You guys are the reason for the freaking problem. You'll always be the reason for the problem. We say, hey, look over there, there's a problem. Oh, no, that can't be a problem because of this. And you go down a freaking rabbit trail and nothing ever gets done. Absolutely disgusting.
Countries. There's a lot of good in Muslim countries, and there's some bad, as there is in a lot of our Western European countries, right? You know, when I hear them talk about us, trust me, it's not a compliment.
Well, I mean, don't the Qataris mock us for like putting our parents in care homes when
all
we care more about our dogs than our families?
They mock us for pretty much all of it. Let me bring in Natalie, who's been waiting very patiently over in Washington. Natalie, a lot of Americans.
This is just funny because he's got three panelists, and then all of a sudden, Americans. That's just funny. All right, so now we're getting an outsider's view of this. Let's see.
Finally she comes in.
Finally
she comes in.
Simplistic view of this, which is British multiculturalism.
Oh wait. He's saying what? Americans have a simplistic view of this? I'm not sure. I mean, there could be Americans who have a simplistic view of this, but I think you guys
Natalie has been waiting very patiently over
view of this.
in Washington. Natalie, a lot of Americans seem to have a very sort of simplistic view of this, which is British multiculturalism is to blame. That's why this has happened. I would argue, having lived here all my life, on and off, that multiculturalism has been very successful largely in the UK. We're known as a very tolerant and multicultural country with actually not many problems like this. This is a scandal involving a group of people from a very particular demographic of Muslims, specifically British Pakistani Muslims. And in the same way that separately we had a scandal of extremists attaching themselves to ISIS and committing acts of terror for a few years, and that got resolved, this has been dealt with not adequately, but will now, I'm sure, be dealt with adequately. Why should we blame multiculturalism in totality for this?
AP, why were you laughing like a little schoolgirl?
Because he was saying that multiculturalism has been very successful and very cool and stuff. That's what he's been saying, and it's just a very ridiculous thing to say. A very ridiculous thing. Now, there is a funny thing here, which is, I don't know, it just makes me sick, to be honest, listening to Western people talk about problems like this, because you guys are retarded, seriously, are culturally retarded when it comes to talking about problems brought in by certain foreign people. It's like no reason, no rationality, no balls, no courage, no strength, nothing at all. So softened by everything. It's just so absolute. It's actually disgusting to me to sit here and listen to these attempts of just sounding as polite as possible, like and we have to, and it's not all Muslims, not all Muslims. Oh no, it's not. Of course, and we also have to acknowledge all the good that they have done, and of course there are lots of people, and I know a lot of good Muslim people. I'm sorry, but you have your country. You have your country. In your country, you have a culture that you established, which made this country great. Until the point where you started importing a certain culture into your country, did you have a grooming and rape problem? No, you didn't. After importing that culture, did you start having a skyrocketing grooming and rape problem, which you ignored like a bunch of idiots? Yes. Okay, here's a solution. Kick them out. Kick them out.
Very racist.
Any sign of it, kick them out. Any affiliation, kick them out. You don't have to constantly talk about, oh, and of course of course I have to point out that there are lots of good ones. Who cares about the good ones? Why do you have to say that? Point out the bad.
To show that you're not racist.
Clean them up. Don't even put them in prisons. Directly push them outside your borders. Say, piss off, and also be very, very harsh against all of those who have any tendency or any approach towards showing such behavior without a single ounce of tolerance, and make your country better again the way it was. Because the way that you are handling this right now, of being polite, of being, oh, I'm so, oh, yes, and I don't mean to offend all of these people you're listening. Yeah, good. Get raped. Have your children raped. Have fun.
So, guys, multiculturalism. And this gets criticized from Americans because the goal in America historically was called the melting pot, right? The melting pot. So you have a melting pot, you put this kind of metal in there, this kind of metal in there, this kind of metal in there, and you melt it all together, and it becomes some new thing, right? So the ideal in America has been, yeah, we've got people coming from all over the world, but we have our set of rules and so on here, our set of laws, our set of values and so on. People are going to come from around the world and will melt together in one big culture that has these ideals in it, right? So that's the idea. It's not you come here and then you have a separate culture. You're your own thing and you stay over here and you come over here and you stay over here. That's not the idea. It happens. You'll have people who sort of, like, people can come over from Ireland. They'll go to an Irish community and you'll have an Irish area and so on. That sort of thing happens. But culturally, the goal has been everyone fusing together into one big American thing. In Europe, they adopted over just the past few decades this ideal of multiculturalism. It's viewed, if you come from, let's say, Pakistan to the UK, you do not, keep in mind what it's saying, multiculturalism, multiple cultures.
I'll be right back.
Right? If you come from Pakistan to the UK, you do not adopt British culture. In fact, it would be bad if you adopted British culture, because it would be like you're throwing away your Pakistani culture. So you don't want to adapt to British culture. You want to maintain your own separate culture. And what that means is you end up with a bunch of different cultures all in one country, and they think, oh, that's great. Now, here's the thing. In order to sustain a multicultural society, you kind of have to dial back criticism of other cultures, right? You have to dial back saying your own culture is better, that people have to adapt to your own culture. So what do you need to do? You need to kind of pummel all the people who say, no, this is a British place and we have British culture and everyone needs to adapt. You kind of have to convince those people to shut up. How do you do it? By constantly telling them they're racists and bigots and Islamophobes and everything else, right? And you do that. Okay, so you spend years telling these people to shut up about any disagreements they have, or for thinking their culture is better and so on. All cultures are equal. In fact, other cultures are better than yours, so you need to shut up, right? Well, what happens? If you keep that up long enough, then what happens if you've trained your population to keep their mouths shut because it stands in the way of your multicultural agenda? If you train those people long enough to keep their mouths shut about what other cultures are doing, what happens when someone from those other cultures are gang raping your daughters? You've been trained that the worst thing you can possibly be is some bigot who is opposed to other people's cultures. You can't question what other people do with their culture. And therefore you get this. And so here's the thing. Multiculturalism to a certain sane extent. Namely, hey, we can have different people from around the world. And as long as we're all agreeing to these bedrock rules and values, we'll be okay. That's not what happens. You can't question them no matter what they're doing. Doesn't matter. Rape, gang rape, anyway. It doesn't matter. There are no lines that can't be crossed here. And so that's what you're stuck with now. You could have had a sane multiculturalism. You can come here and you don't have to adapt in every way. You can still have your cultural foods and have your cultural holidays and so on. But on these values and these rules, we all have to agree, or you do not get to come here. That's the price of admission for coming to the UK. You have to agree on these rules and values. If you agree and then you don't follow them, then back you go. We're sending you back. But it's not what they do. So that's the issue. A sane degree of multiculturalism could be a good thing in a society. But what happens in practice is the people who are already there, they get pummeled into keeping their mouths shut no matter what these other cultures do. And I would say you have other cultures that are completely compatible. You can take them from any part, you can take them from a different part of the world, and they will come in there and they will be glad to live according to the rules and values in that society. You have other people who are hell-bent on subjugating that population and taking over the world. Guess what? Those are the people you can't allow that. You can't say, oh, here we have this set of values where we're all going to agree to live in harmony, but you have a position where you're going to take advantage of our hospitality and use it to ultimately conquer and overthrow us and then slaughter people in the name of God. You don't get to be a part of this. In other words, there has to be some fundamental rule about who you let in and who you don't. And Britain just doesn't have that. And this is what happens. This is what happened, folks. All right, we're waiting on AP. Let's take a couple super chats. I think I read this one already, but I wanted to bring this back. Please play the discussion Pierce had with Gad Saad. He shows Pierce how he platforms Islamophobia. Yep. Despite disliking Tommy Robinson's messaging due to class and dialect. Yep, that's true. Burkas with booby cutouts. Hey, my eyes are up here, mister. That would be funny. Ayatollah says we should all become trans or gay. David Wood, 1925. I did say, ladies and gentlemen, you heard me. You think everyone's going to pressure me into changing what I said? Nope, doesn't work. If Islam was a bum, he would be eating in his tum-tum some porridge and whey with hummus because he's barred from rum till he meets Allah. This is not show how great a poet you are, Day, desperado. As a Catholic, I would immediately call out any abuse in the church. It benefits the church to call it out, and it benefits its people. Yeah, and definitely benefits the kids. And also, if you kind of... This is what they talk about when like continuing the cycle. Like you'll have a kid who's abused, but he grows up in the church, and then it's programmed into him that that's kind of normal. And so you just have to completely wipe out the behavior so that it's never considered normal by people growing up in the church. Joshua says, are there authentic Islamic sources talking about Aisha's age being something other than 9 years old? I can think of one that says 10, and that's it. I can think of one that says 10, and it's not even one of their main ones. So the overwhelming vast majority, and you're talking a couple hundred, say that she was 9 when the marriage was consummated. Grooming gang problem in the UK is in the mainstream now. Men in Pakistani military brutally raped Bengali women during the 71 independence war in Bangladesh, Hindu and Christian girls in Pakistan. Yeah, it's a nightmare. Here's the weird thing. You look at what they do in places like Pakistan to Christian girls, to Hindu girls and so on. You can see what they think of non-Muslims. And then what does your government do? They say, you know what we need? We need to bring in as many of these guys as possible. We need to bring as many of these grown men who think it's perfectly acceptable to go around treating Christian and Hindu girls like this. We need as many of them as possible here in the UK. It's what your leaders did. Are abducted and then forcibly married to Muslim men. Pakistani men don't even leave animals alone. After hearing all these, what are people supposed to think about Muslim Pakistani men? Good question. And again, it would be a situation where you can have perfectly nice Pakistani men. You can have perfectly honorable Pakistani men. They're just things that are disproportionately bad with certain groups. And screaming Islamophobia doesn't change the fact. And calling people racist doesn't change the fact. Gonna call AP Chef AP for cooking Aiden. He put Aiden's whole career at stake. That's good. I need to show that to AP when he gets back. I'm officially divorcing Esther for not being based enough. Sad. Not based enough. Key says, I feel like David Wood would love RDR2 if he played it. Would love to see that cowpoke's reaction to it. I don't even know what that is. RDR2. Race Driver Road 2? Doesn't make any sense. AAP.
So,
what's RDR2? Is that a video game? I mean, I know it's a video game. What's
Red
RDR?
Dead Redemption. It's one of the best games ever.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's what it
Is it like a zombie killing game?
No. It's a Wild West. It's a cowboy game.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a very, very advanced.
Is it first person shooter?
No, it's not. It's
okay.
a third person adventure open world.
Okay.
Very
we had this one. Gonna call AP Chef AP for cooking Aiden.
Powerful.
And your nickname is Chef AP.
Powerful.
Basketball is a team sport. Chess is an individual game. Who rapes as a group? How messed up is that?
Yeah.
It's also an issue. That's a very important point. And I made that point in my video I posted like over 10 years ago. It was like 2013. I posted my video on the grooming gangs. But that you could actually see in the names that it would be like two brothers and their dad would be part of this grooming gang. I said, what's that mean? It means it's a family affair. And I pointed out, like, you can have, let's say, a rapist and so on. Like if I called up my brother and I said, hey, guess what? I found this 12-year-old girl. She's all drunk. Let's rape her. My brother would assume that I'm joking. Probably. If he found out, we would be fighting over that. He would come over and clock me in my freaking face over that stuff, right? In other words, you can have a total pervert when your entire family thinks it's perfectly fine, and you get your aunts and not aunts, but your uncles and cousins and everyone else in on it. It kind of seems like your entire community is convinced that this is a good thing to do. No one calls this stuff out. Hey, look what we have here. The Adventures of Shake It Off says, thoughts about Tommy Robinson's 2021 Judgment Future live stream. Sent AP the link and an extract on Elon's platform. YouTube won't let me send the message naming it. Keep up the great work.
No thoughts.
Do you know what this is about? He said he sent you a link. Weren't you paying attention?
No.
Could be dope stuff. Queen here. The UK thinks because they integrated Indians and Jamaicans, former colonies, that multiculturalism works. Then Tony Blair helped open the floodgates. Yeah, again, multiculturalism can work to an extent, but you need certain rules and guidelines that everyone has to adhere to. And you're inviting people in who are taking advantage of the system, and they ultimately want to overthrow the entire system. Those are the people you can't allow to be part of it. New Maccabees and Crusaders fight together this time. Maccabees and Crusaders. That'd be funny. The hardest thing as an ex-Muslim is what is best way to navigate in this world and be a good parent so that my kids don't turn into left-wing degenerates. What are your thoughts or suggestions on this? You must sit them down to watch Ben Shapiro all day, every day.
Exactly.
Any thoughts on this, AP?
The hardest thing as an ex-Muslim is what is best way to navigate in this world and be a good parent so that my kids don't turn into left-wing degenerates. What are your thoughts or suggestions on this? At this point, I don't really have any suggestions, honestly. Just to do your best. Not something that I can give a fantastic opinion on.
Yeah, have a good relationship with your kids. Watch some stuff with them. Make sure they go to schools that aren't brainwashing them. Things like that. You can't love Western culture and at the same time want to fundamentally change it.
Yes. However, I think there are some things that there are some ways in which going back or changing certain aspects because they didn't work out very well. Some things need to be maybe temporarily adjusted, which wouldn't necessarily mean fundamentally changing it, but going back to the fundamentals of your Western culture and society and looking for different solutions as opposed to the endless 100% liberal, democratic freedom. Everybody can do whatever they want, and everybody can have a say, and all that. Maybe you need to get rid of some of those and find something different in the fundamentals of your Western culture and apply those again until you get rid of those who want to destroy your culture from within.
You heard it here, folks. We need to get rid of democracy and just have a king. Oh, let me guess. King AP. Yeah. Yeah, we don't see this one coming. Come on. Yeah, so guys, part of Western culture, part of what's good about Western culture is that it allows change. You have other places in the world that have not changed in any significant way in 1,000 years. So what a good thing about Western culture is having the right building blocks in place and then changing things that don't work. But yeah, over this past generation or so, that's changed too. Let's completely destroy all the foundational things. And guess what? If you've become the most powerful and prosperous parts of the world, I would say you got some things right, and you need to make sure you're protecting those things. And so when someone comes along and says, hey, you're the most powerful and prosperous area the world has ever seen, let's change everything from the ground up. Probably not the best idea.
Did you say most powerful and prosperous Aryan?
Area, you Nazi.
Oh.
Yes, we are the most powerful and prosperous Aryans. Monologic says, YouTube censoring me right now. YouTube targeting your videos. One video comment stuck at 666. You see, this is the proof.
Oh, you see.
The proof. We'll take two more real quick, and then we'll jump back in this video because we want to see
good arguments.
The UK police were too scared of being called racist to do anything. They should hang their heads in shame. Yeah, I'm making a rule. If there's any evidence of you turning a blind eye towards what was happening, go do something else. I came to this channel to watch some wholesome, educational, family-friendly Christian content. And what do I see? Everyone talking about boobs. Can't be helped. Can't be helped. All right, guys, we got some more super chats, but we want to get back to this video here. I'm just going to leave this up.
Sure. Well, I don't really think that tolerance should be the paramount virtue if the disparate cultures that you're importing into said country are cultures that, frankly, I think are conducive to gang raping of young girls. If you read the Quran, I mean, young women, pedophilia isn't something that's totally out of the blue. It's codified in that text. And I think why it resonates so strongly in America, and I know your analysis of it was maybe a little bit reductive, but it's because that's the lived experience of a lot of Americans when it comes to the issue of immigration. And I think the hypocrisy where you see elites pushing multiculturalism, pushing open borders, mass migration, when they've never really made the case as to why the average American benefits from it or needs to have it. They just say diversity is our strength, and that's where they end the sentence. And I think to that point, right, when you read the limited inquiries that they've had into the whole grooming gang escapades, what do they always say? Oh, well, the police didn't go into it because they didn't want to start race riots or race wars. I'm sorry. These are the same elites who have absolutely no qualms or no issue with bringing up, racialized incidents if it's a white person being the aggressor against a minority. Just look at what happened in the case of George Floyd. So it's very selective, and I think it confirms what a lot of people think here, certainly in the United States, with the agenda of certainly mass illegal, and I think we've also learned this week, legal immigration, that there is some level of replacement, I think, of American culture going on here, and they do it by importing cultures that have nothing in common with the West. And our leaders will say that assimilation is racist, it's neo-colonial, it's not appropriate to say that cultures that have different values and standards than us need to adopt the shared cultures of the country that they're immigrating to. So that is not an approach to immigration that works.
Okay, but
that was quite possibly the most racist thing I've ever heard in my life.
I agree.
Undeniably true that I think the vast majority of domestic terrorism in the United States this century has been perpetrated by white people.
Well, that's only because
What a freaking idiot. I remember the article that put that out. Most domestic terrorism in the U.S. is by white people, which, you know, you should expect it to some extent, considering most people are white and so on. But they actually looked into what they were counting as domestic terrorism, and it was any sort. You could say something offensive and so on. They were counting it as terrorism and so on. When you actually changed it to deadly terrorist attacks that are killing people, the numbers started changing real quick. But let's see what she says here.
Also, there's something very interesting that should always be part of trying to understand the numbers and statistics. In fact, you should be. You should learn about this if you learn anything about statistics, which is that there's always a way of looking at and analyzing numbers within their context. If you have mostly white people doing certain things in a mostly white country, it doesn't just end there. You can't just say, well, it's mostly white people. There is something else that you should take into consideration. What is the number of white people in that country? What is the number of minorities, non-white people or Muslims, for example, in that country, relative to the number of Muslims in that country, or relative to the number of non-white people in that country? What is the number of crimes committed by those non-white people or those Muslims? And you will then see, generally, in terms of terrorism and other crimes, that you will have that these other groups, especially Muslims, will be significantly more likely per capita to engage in terrorism, for example, compared to white people. White people will be responsible for most of the domestic terrorism because there are also almost everywhere white people. They are the overwhelming majority. If you go per capita, then you will quickly figure out that, white people are less likely per capita to commit these certain acts, while the other peeps are more likely to. Why is that? Well, to figure that out, it would have to be a little bit racist and Islamophobic. So,
yeah, and apart from that, there's an issue in which when you try to stop terrorist attacks, if they're random by random groups of people, by small groups and so on, hard to do something about that, right? If some so a Timothy McVeigh type, right? A Timothy McVeigh, that's your characteristic example of a white domestic terrorist. How do you stop that? Once you've seen it, how do you stop future terrorist attacks happening like that? Well, he's not part of some huge group that's promoting that sort of thing. So kind of hard to do something about it. An individual or someone who's part of a small group who decides to use terrorism as a weapon, pretty hard to do something about that. When it's based in an ideology, like you have a large group that has as part of its goal terrorizing other people, that's a situation where you can actually do something about it. And guess what? We kind of find patterns. We kind of find patterns when we start looking for the usual suspects, as it were. Where does this keep happening? So, AP, you've had groups like the IRA that use terrorism as a weapon for long periods of time. You've done this before. What happens if you look up things like top 10? What is the common religion of like the top 10 biggest terrorist groups in the world? What happens when you do that kind of thing? It keeps a pattern emerges. This is the overarching problem with all of these discussions and so on. There are actual patterns and there are actual correlations. And whenever people try to point out the pattern or point out the correlation so you can get to the source of this, you're told, oh, but what about this? Okay, we're not talking about that. But this guy, because a terrorist too. Okay, we're trying to ask why this is so common with one ideology. Why? But it's not common. What do you mean it's not? Look. We can give you 46,000 plus Islamic terrorist attacks just since 9/11. What? But look, what about Westboro Baptist Church? These are the people who are the problem. You have terrorists trying to terrorize the entire world, and you have journalists and speakers and educators and entertainers doing everything they can to stop you from just asking why. Why does this occur disproportionately in one group? Because if you ask that question, you might find out the answer, and that might cause division in society.
Here's a funny data. So based on one of the on one of those findings, one of those researchers that revealed that, for example, so-called far right-wing extremist groups were responsible for 73% of deadly extremist incidents since 9/11. The same research revealed that radical Islamist extremists were responsible within the United
Radical
States.
Islamist extremists?
Yeah.
They had to toss in all the words?
Yeah, all of that together.
Radical Islamist, extremist, fundamentalist. Well, I'm trying to think of other words we could toss in there. We just want to make it clear as possible. We're not talking about all Muslims.
So Muslim terrorism was responsible for 27% of the incidents, despite Muslims being 1% of the US population. How about that? Take that into consideration. Of course, if you look at, is most of the stuff that is done in a country full of white people done by white people or by others? Instead of that, how about look at these statistics? Despite being 1% of the freaking population, Muslims are responsible for how much? 27% of terrorist activities, of terrorist incidents. And then the deadliness, when it comes to the deadliness, it gets even more serious, because then suddenly the number of people killed in terrorist attacks since 9/11 is close or similar or nearly equal or something like that since 9/11. So the number of people killed by Muslim extremists, despite being only 1% of the frickin' population, is nearly as high as the number of people killed by non-Muslim extremists.
So everyone else combined.
Yeah, let that sink in.
And guys, if you're wondering who these other terrorists are, you do have people like this synagogue shooter and things like that. So you do have people like that who go around killing people.
And expand this to a global level. Over 80% of terrorism-related deaths in the world are caused by Islam.
Stop being racist, AP.
Okay, but isn't it undeniably true that I think the vast majority of domestic terrorism in the United States this century has been perpetrated by white people?
Wow, very smart.
Well, that's only because they've reworked the definition of domestic terrorism
Correct.
to include events like January
Vandalism
6th
and
and
stuff.
people who are affiliated with MAGA. So I would certainly say that their classification of what constitutes domestic terrorism is sort of cherry-picked, especially when they prosecuted or persecuted every single Jan 6er on an individual basis. But I mean, the Biden regime just 3 weeks ago puts out a whole white paper, a new strategy to counter Islamophobia and anti-Muslim hate. I don't really think that that's the most pressing issue going on in the United States of America right now. And I think there's two compounding issues, which is what Dr. Jordan Peterson was getting into. One is the issue of mass migration at an unprecedented number in terms of the people who are coming in. Traditionally, America would sort of have on and off periods. Now you're seeing numbers of migrants that are just completely overwhelming what it used to be. And there's no off periods. And you have a sort of societal superstructure and culture where you look down on assimilation. And if you tell people who come from different cultures, and oftentimes it's racialized or there's a religious component to it, if they're not white or if they're Muslim or whatever they may be, that if you demand assimilation, you're smeared and mocked as a racist. And it doesn't work, because these cultures, as evidenced in what's going on all around United Kingdom, and there's similar stuff going on here. We have no-go zones in the United States too. It doesn't work. And Piers, frankly, I don't think you're correct to say that multiculturalism has been successful. I think if you told the girls who were victims of violent, atrocious rapes, I don't think that they would agree that multiculturalism has been wonderful. I don't think.
Well, I would throw back to you.
Honestly, I think this was a very weak response on her part. I think it was a very weak response, which just sounds like crying and whining about.
Well, her eyes were up here, AP.
About we are the victim here and all that. It was kind of. It doesn't really address the issue very well. It doesn't really address the claim very well, and it goes into this whole stereotypical. It's kind of almost like when the other side argues from, and does the whole victimhood game. She is also kind of playing the victimhood game here. I don't think this was a very good response. Could have gone to a much better direction of addressing the claim directly, and talking about why the claim that most of the domestic terrorism is by white people, why this is misleading and wrong. So
she did. She gave a quick response to that, but yeah, then she went off in the other direction. But yeah, she pointed out that they modified the definition of domestic terrorism to include like everyone in January 6th. They're all lumped together. Okay, so they're lumped together with like they're in the same category as like the Bourbon Street terrorist.
But here's the thing:
they're all domestic terrorists.
There's this one mistake that Americans often make when they get into discussions with other people, which is that when you go into things like January 6th and so on, these are things that that Americans care a lot about and feel very passionate about and have lots of discussions about. When you go and have this discussion with people from the UK, most of the people in the UK don't give a crap about that kind of stuff. So you need to address the discussion. This whole January 6th Republican Democratic centric.
No, that was an answer to the thing. So he's saying, look, most domestic terrorists, and she's saying, yeah, because look at their definition. Look at the definition they use, which is exactly what I said. You take a definition of domestic terrorism that can include things like vandalism and things like that, and they say, look at the numbers. Oh my goodness, it's staggering. And you change it. Okay. Terrorists who actually kill people for their ideology. Now do the math, and you get some staggeringly different math, which means that people are messing around with the numbers. So I think that's a valid point as far as responding to him. But then, yeah, then she went on to other stuff.
Yeah.
Well, let's see.
Powerful.
Look, I would throw back to you this argument, which is that I got into a lot of hot water in America many years ago over calling for gun control after the Sandy Hook mass shooting, for example. The vast majority of mass shootings in America are by disturbed young white men. Mm-hmm. Should we use that as a reason to take dramatic action against all young white men? I mean, that's the analogy I would use.
My goodness, Pierce, I hope you're seriously not this stupid. This ties into what I was saying earlier. If you have someone who's part of a group and the group is advocating something, then you can go ahead and challenge that group and start talking about that group, right? If some kid gets pissed off and goes up and shoots up his classmates, how do you deal with that? You target all young white people? Doesn't make any sense. There's no shared ideology held by all young white people that is giving rise to this. What you have is if you have millions of young people and they're in situations where their ideas about what's important and so on over time are changing. You have some people who end up thinking life is meaningless in their teenage years and so on. What's the point of all this? I'm getting bullied. You know what? I might as well go out with a bang. That sort of thing can happen. What do you do about that? There's not some, so that's very different. Imagine you had some group that is advocating that young white people go out and start slaughtering people in the name of something, in the name of Jesus or something like that. And then they start doing it. And you notice, wow, this group is producing way more of this sort of thing than any other group in the world. there would be commonsensical. Just imagine you had a group of, let's say, 1 million young white people, and they enter into a pact that we're gonna, we consider it a good thing to go up and slaughter a bunch of other people. We consider it a good thing. And then they start doing it. And then you start saying, hey, we need to focus on what this group is doing. This group is dangerous. They have a dangerous idea there. And other people go, what? But they're not the only ones who do it. Look, there are other people who do it too. So therefore, you can't focus on what that group did. You can't focus on them. Stop being an idiot, Piers. I want to believe that Piers cannot actually be this stupid.
Good point. Wow.
Or do you accept that actually?
I don't think.
Well, my point is, do you accept that they're outliers to the norm? That they are extremists, these kids committing the mass shootings?
Well, when 1 in 73 Pakistani men in that one town are engaged, I don't really even think that they're an anomaly or on the extremities. That is the mainstream culture, and it's certainly the mainstream culture when you're saying at an institutional level for police officers to be covering it up.
To be clear, they were all almost exclusively members of the British Pakistani Muslim community. So that is a small number of the general Muslim population. Very small.
Pause. This is a very funny moment to me. So here the discussion, even from his side, shifts from but you're saying that there is a huge problem with the British Pakistani Muslims, but pause. But hold on. It's not Muslims. It's Pakistani Muslims. Okay. Great. Fantastic. So what have we established now? That there is a problem with Pakistani Muslims? That there is a huge problem with Pakistani Muslims who also happen to be, I think, 50% of the Muslim population in the UK, if not more? What a weird thing to pause on.
It is weird because, I mean, their biggest concern is about racism. Okay, saying Pakistani, blaming Pakistanis would be a race thing, right? Yeah. I mean, according to their criteria, it'd be a race thing. So why would you not want to focus on Islam as a component? At least it's ideological, right? And then you wouldn't be a racist for bringing it up. But he's saying, it's Pakistanis, not Muslims.
First off, it's not just Pakistanis. We also have established that statistically Bangladeshis are also quite dominant. Although Pakistanis will probably be much more likely to be engaged in such behavior, considering that they also happen to be the dominant population among Muslims in the UK, which gives them an amount of encouragement. But yeah, I mean, talk about that then. I think this is actually. I mean, I'm not against this. I'm not against this whole idea of just of going and talking about how the Pakistani Muslim population seems to be a big problem. Yes, please go ahead. Please acknowledge that as a nation, as the British nation. Please acknowledge that.
So you're saying she should have just gone. She should have just said, "Great point, Pierce." So you're acknowledging, right? Something like that.
Yeah, like thank you, fantastic. All right, we're getting somewhere here. Let's address that.
Thank you, great point. Now, what can we do about that problem that you've just pointed out and drawn attention to, Pierce? Okay,
exactly.
Let's see what she says.
So it's not pertinent to say it was a Muslim cultural problem, this scandal. It was a cultural problem amongst British Pakistani men, exclusively.
Muslims. British Pakistani Muslims.
I don't necessarily know if that framing is correct. I
it is
think
correct.
There's a racial element to it.
It is
well,
correct.
I think if you want to have the uncomfortable conversation about Islam, it is sort of conducive to pedophilia. I mean, I don't necessarily think that you can reduce it to the idea that, just because they happen to be, Pakistani British men.
Ask her again about the white school shooter.
Do you hear that? Ask her again about the white school shooter. Ask her again about what did she say? She says, hey, there's something in Islam that makes pedophilia more acceptable. Okay, what is, and she says, bring up the white school shooters. Did you understand the claim at all? What shared ideology do white kids share that is promoting something? I'm not aware of anything. If you know of something, please tell me. She's saying there's something in Islam that is promoting pedophilia, That is a question. She's either right or she's wrong. If she's wrong, please correct her. But don't just say, oh, but what about this? And it has nothing to do with that. You stupid idiot. Gosh, these, again, AP, I can't emphasize how much contempt I have for these people who every time anyone says, what, can we please get to the bottom of this just for one discussion? Can we please say, here's a problem. I'm going to put forward my hypothesis about why there's this problem, and you guys can criticize my hypothesis. And as soon as you say, here's the problem, here's my hypothesis for why's the problem, you guys start, no, what about this? 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 Can we please address whether there is this issue of Islam promoting pedophilia? Can we please do it? Can we please do it?
Because Piers Morgan is primarily in charge of this as well. He doesn't want to talk about the Islam aspect, which is why he wants to distract from it and wants to make it about British Pakistanis. He doesn't want to talk. He doesn't like talking about Islam itself, and doesn't like to attack or criticize Islam itself. Probably because, I don't know, he has some dealings or something that gets him in trouble. They don't like that. They also actively behind the scenes discourage their guests from talking about these things and tell them not to talk about these things, not to talk about Islam. So there is a whole policy on Piers Morgan's show, which is just more evidence that it is extremely hypocritical, very ironic. His show is called Piers Morgan Uncensored. It's certainly not uncensored. He actively censors any conversation about Islam. People don't want to talk about this, and this is because once again, as a society, British people are stupid, and they don't want to acknowledge and don't want to be open about these facts. You have in their country the most popular spokespeople of Islam going around and advocating for and making excuses for pedophilia, for raping little children. And yet, the British population will feel too sensitive, too nervous, too weird to talk about this because they are stupid. It is because and we have to say it. It is just there is a great intellectual problem. There is a great problem of stupidity. British people are very stupid. They are very stupid. They are very naive, very unaware. I mean, if it wasn't for other people getting into this discussion and mixing into the discussion, British people would be completely wiped out in a few generations, because they are just too stupid to handle these things themselves. They have so far, I guess, in history survived by sitting on an island and having their power. But then once they start importing people, which they do not know how to deal with, they start drowning in their stupidity, because they are so dumb and so absolutely functionally retarded that they don't know how to really handle such a discussion on an actual problem. You will have foreigners come and speak among them and say, hey, we want to marry children. We want to marry 9-year-old girls and 6-year-old girls. You want to marry the children? And they will say like, I do not think that this is about religion. I think. Let's talk about white people then. Let's talk about white people then. Mm-hmm. And no, some people are saying this is not about dumb. It's about leftists. No, it's not. British people are stupid. It's not leftists. I would say British leftist people are not more stupid than British centre or right-wing people. British people as a collective are stupid. It's like you guys don't have the ability to really think about things properly. It's like you live in a very idiotic world, and you need aid. You really need help from the rest of the world to be able to continue living and breathing. Otherwise, if you were left to your own devices with a foreign population, you would probably die or something. I don't know.
You heard it here, folks. And you think, no, that's not the case. And look at what we're talking. Look at what we're looking at right now. You just had an American say, hey, there's a problem with pedophilia in Islam. And the British people unanimously did what? What about white kids shooting people in the United States? What about that? What about that? The correct response would have been, And here's the thing. If you point out that there's a connection between Islam viewing children as viable sexual partners, what would they instantly say? But what about this white guy who was a pedophile? Oh my goodness. You don't get it, do you? Culturally, you can have an individual who thinks that's okay. Culturally, you could condemn it. Culturally, you would say it is wrong to view a child as a sexual partner. In Islam, turns out to be way more common to view a child as a sexual partner, to such an extent, all their leading spokesmen all defend it. Muhammad Hijab, Ali Dawa, Daniel Haqiqatjou is the biggest defender of child marriage on the planet. And these guys become popular Muslim speakers. Why? Here's my hypothesis. It's from Sahih al-Bukhari. Look at the chapter heading. Giving one's young children in marriage is permissible. Why? By virtue of the statement of Allah. And for those who have no monthly courses, i.e. they are still immature, that's Surah 65, verse 4 of the Quran. That's the justification for giving your young children in marriage. And the iddah, that's the waiting period for a girl after you've married her, had sex with her, and divorced her. How long does the girl have to wait before another guy can have sex with her? The iddah for the girl before puberty is 3 months. This is in the Quran. And then as an example of this, they give, narrated Aisha, that the Prophet wrote the marriage contract with her when she was 6 years old, and he consummated his marriage when she was 9 years old, and then she remained with him for 9 years, i.e. till his death. We have an endless array of these sources about Aisha playing with dolls and so on when she's taken to Muhammad to consummate the marriage. We have endless commentaries on Surah 65, verse 4 of the Quran, saying that this is referring.
Hold on. But what about the school shooters? What about the young
the school
white people?
shooters? You're right. You're
What
right.
about
The
the young
school
white
shooters,
people who are school
because the school shooters all believe in this prophet who said you need to go out and shoot as many people at your school as possible. Oh wait, they don't. But the Dawa guys do have that as their role model. They have someone who is their role model who had sex with a 9-year-old girl.
Dangerous.
It's so dangerous. It's so dangerous to talk about this. It's so dangerous. What about the little kid? What about the little kids who are shooting up the schools?
Oh my gosh!
Oh my goodness!
It's so dangerous.
What do they do? They're all 100% of them. They are programmed as soon as you come in with the spotlight and say, this group is behaving in this way. I look at their sources and I say, that's exactly the sort of way they should be behaving according to their own sources. Why don't we look at these sources so we can deal with the problem? And instantly it's no, let's go into distraction mode. Absolute garbage, terrible people.
But hold on. Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you that there is a problem. There certainly is a problem. But and I also want to point out that I don't mean that we're not talking about all Muslims, because of course there are lots of good Muslims.
Nope,
lots of
talking
nice
about the Muslims who actually take Muhammad as a role model, as their commander.
All right. But we have to point out that of course there are also good Muslims and also good ones. I want to vomit every single time that I hear a Western person.
They're terrified. They're terrified of sounding offensive to one group. They don't care. They don't care about other groups.
No, when we're talking about group, we have to point out it's not all of them. I mean, there are some very nice people.
Yeah,
some very nice.
This lady should have flipped it and been like, "Why are you so obsessed with what white kids are doing? Oh my goodness, are you racist?" Something like that. Keep in mind, she wasn't even talking about a race. She's talking about Islam. She says, hey, there's a connection. There's a connection between viewing children as sexual partners and Islam. There's a connection. There's a correlation there.
That's what they do.
Let's see here.
Answer that question.
It's nice to have a conspiracy theorist on the line. It's always good fun. I hate to pull rank at you and sound like a twat, but
not a conspiracy.
Both of my PhD.
At least you understand what you sound like, because it's exactly what you sound like. I've never seen a more perfect example. Dude, you take the cake. As far as someone sounding like a condescending prick, I've never seen anything at this level. It's amazing.
Again about the white school shooters.
Where I read
answer
the Quran.
Answer that question.
It's nice to have a conspiracy theorist on the line. It's always good fun. I hate to pull rank at you and sound like a twat.
Pull rank.
Not a conspiracy
Both of my PhDs
theory,
are in
it's
philosophy
called
of
the
religion,
Quran.
and I think I'm slightly more qualified to speak about the Quran than you are.
AP, I mentioned this when we watched it the other day. Any philosopher on the planet who just heard that would immediately think this guy's an evil deceiver. Any philosopher who just heard what he said. What he just said, ladies and gentlemen, was I have a PhD in the philosophy of religion. Therefore, I'm more qualified to talk about what's in the Quran than you. That to anyone who knows what the philosophy of religion is, that is the most insanely idiot, because people hear the word, and he knows this. He knows that people hear the word religion and they think, oh, expert in religion. No, if you had a PhD in religious studies, that would mean you study religion. When you talk about philosophy of religion, you're talking about arguments for and against the existence of God, things like the problem of evil. There can be different periods, like the medieval period and so on, what was going on philosophically and so on among the theologians. But you're talking about certain issues, certain concepts, clarifying concepts. You know, what is God? What is God? Define God. Things like that.
What do you mean, God?
Almost everyone. So I went to Fordham. Almost everyone in that department had some level of competence in philosophy of religion. No one there knew anything about Islam. Why? The only reason you would study Islam, unless it's a side interest, like I was studying Islam, I was also studying philosophy of religion, but Islam was I had a separate interest in Islam. The only reason you would be studying anything in Islam as a philosopher of religion would be if you were looking up this Muslim philosopher's response to the problem of evil or something like that. You're not sitting around reading the Quran unless you're just interested in doing that. My point is, having a PhD in the philosophy of religion would give you zero credibility. And go ask a million philosophers this. Would that mean you know what the Quran is? Ask a million philosophers. They would say, no, that has nothing to do with it. But he just pulled rank. This means I'm the expert in this discussion because I have a PhD in a field that has nothing to do with what you're saying right now. Zero, nothing. And I'm saying this because if he's a philosopher, if he has a PhD in a philosophy of religion, that gives me no indication that he has ever studied the Quran. It does give me an indication that he has studied logic. You would be required during your philosophical studies to learn logic. And if you paid attention in logic class, Jack, you would recall this thing called an irrelevant appeal to authority. People always say, oh, that's an appeal to authority. Keep in mind, appeal to authority does not have to be a fallacy. If saying, hey, this guy's an expert in this field, why don't we listen to what he says? That's not necessarily irrelevant or a fallacy. An irrelevant appeal to authority is where you appeal to someone's authority and it has no relevance to the topic, which is what you just did, Jack.
Yes.
Embarrassingly so. You have brought shame upon the entire philosophical community for using your background in philosophy to act like this qualifies you as an expert on the topic of the Quran. You are not just a smug, repulsive, condescending prick. You're also a deceptive, evil liar. That's what you are, Jack.
And an imbecile. And I can confidently say that both David and I, independently, are significantly more qualified to talk about Islam than
she probably is. Booby girl right beside him probably is.
Don't call him.
What?
Wait, what's her? Natalie Winters. Yeah.
Natalie Winters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody here is much more qualified to talk about Islam than this smug, disgusting, sickening, freakish, weirdo, condescending prick here on display, who is presuming to have to be the authority to talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, what a dirtbag! That's a dirtbag move.
And I would challenge him to a debate. I did challenge him publicly. He has seen it. He has not reacted to it because he's a freaking coward.
Yeah.
You would debate him. We could all have debates with him, and we would humiliate this guy. And
this guy would get crushed.
I rarely ever want to go into the direction of just wanting to humiliate somebody. But with this guy, I just so badly want to humiliate this guy. I don't care about the argument. I just want to humiliate this guy.
Yeah,
and he would be humiliated if he had a debate with me or with David.
Would. And once again, guys, I cannot emphasize to you enough what he just said, how insulting to people's intelligence that is. This would be like, the parallel would be something like this. Someone falls over. We're on a plane. Suppose we're on a plane and someone just collapses right there. And the flight attendant comes over the intercom. Is there a doctor on board? And I go, I'm a doctor. I'll take it from here. You see why that'd be a problem? I'm a doctor in the sense of I have a doctorate degree. It has completely nothing to do with this situation. So for me to jump in there as I'm the expert in this person who has just collapsed would be an insult to people's intelligence there. but that's what he did. But this is the guy we're all supposed to listen to, so let's hear him out.
To suggest even for a moment that that document allows for, what it does is condemn non-consensual marriage. And
Oh, really?
It
Where?
condemn chapter and verse, bud,
Where
bro.
does it do that?
It condemn. And by the way, what does that have to do with the concept? What does that have to do with what she said? He said it condemns non-consensual marriage. Who in the world's talking about non-consensual marriage here? You could. It's an important topic, like the forced marriages and so on. But what does that have to do with the topic, bud? I see zero connection. I see as little a connection between what she said and what you just said as between you claiming to have a PhD in the philosophy of religion and that meaning you're an expert in the Quran. You know, what a dope, man.
No, somebody said, AP, isn't that because Frida said, isn't that because you want to decimate the argument, the point he's making? No, in this case, it's not.
No, here it's about a person being absolute scum. It's different.
When debating this guy, I don't even care about the argument. I want to attack the argument and all of that just to humiliate this condescending, sickening, freakish prick, this condescending, smug prick here. That's all this is about. I don't really care about the argument because this guy goes on here and tries to act like I am the authority. Yeah. I am more qualified than you to talk about this, and I can absolutely assure you that this document, this brilliant, wonderful document called the Quran, absolutely does not allow such a thing. On the contrary, it absolutely condemns this irrelevant thing that you didn't even just talk about. So I would like to humiliate this guy.
Yeah. And then watch, you haven't seen the worst of it. Watch when she starts talking and he leans in like with a big smile on his face. What a dirtbag. Let's go. Here we go.
Non-consensual sexual contact. Like,
well, I look up the rates of child brides then.
The real risk you have in the US isn't multiculturalism. It's a multi-billionaire running the biggest social media planet, one of the biggest social media planet, which has turned into an echo chamber of your...
Guys, did you hear that? So she brought up, hey, there's a connection between pedophilia and Islam. There's a correlation there. He responded, haha, you idiot. I have a PhD in a completely unrelated field, but that makes me an expert because I'm a compulsive liar. But haha, I will show you the Quran actually condemns non-consensual marriage. I have no idea when that was actually brought up. And then when she points out, she goes, no, there's a definite correlation between child marriage in Muslim country that happens. And then his response is, the biggest threat to America is Elon Musk having control of Twitter. Who is this class? I mean, this is like the most insanely stupid, idiotic. What a piece of garbage. This guy is beyond Muhammad Hijab level. This guy's beyond Ali Dawah level.
Imbecile.
And just being complete repulsive deceivers.
Ridiculous ideology. And the fact that you're telling us all and telling the British public, who we're proudly multicultural, as someone that was brought up in multicultural working class like, Birmingham,
who is this idiot?
I can tell you for sure that there's not you won't find a Muslim there who's read the Quran and went, oh, you know what, it didn't rule out sexual violence, so I might just crack on with that.
What are you talking about? These guys defend. If you're what was she talking about? He says sexual violence. What was she talking about? Pedophilia. You think does this idiot think Muslims don't use the Quran to defend pedophilia? Has he ever listened to Daniel Hakikachu, Ali Dawah, Muhammad Hijab, any of these guys? Has he listened to any of them? I got to do it, AP. What's the timestamp here? 21:22. Let me go ahead and let me see if I can find it real quick. Where is it? I know I have the clip somewhere on here. Your buddy Muhammad Hijab. Let's see.
I just find it satisfying that after this here, when this guy behaves like, oh, you are trash, I can tell you all about this. She just gives a response, and he just looks like a complete donkey.
Let's go ahead and check something out real quick. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so he just said, "Oh, you won't find a Muslim going to the Quran to defend sexual violence." She brought up pedophilia. Let's see if we find a Muslim.
If you look just at the Quran, you will get the indication that you can have sexual intercourse with a 5-year-old.
What? Is this not a British Muslim? What? If you just look just at the Quran? But no, I hope you're not going to be like Jack What's-His-Face there and just say that what the Quran says and not back it up, hijab.
The reason why it's haram to have sexual intercourse with a 5-year-old is not found in the Quran at all. If you just read the Quran, it is halal, it would be halal to have sexual intercourse with a 5-year-old.
In the Quran?
In Surah Al-Talaq, chapter 65, verse 4, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us who you can divorce and who you cannot divorce. And then he says, وَاللَّائِ لَمْ يَحِدْنَ. وَاللَّائِ لَمْ يَحِدْنَ. And the ones who had never been pubescent before. And by the way, this is very important, yeah? I want all Muslims to be aware of this. The reason why we don't have sexual intercourse with 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds or whatever is not because of puberty. Wait a minute, what did you say?
What did you say?
It's not because of puberty, because that verse in the Quran actually says lam yahid. They never had puberty before.
Guys, he is talking about Surah 65, verse 4. And those of your women as have passed the age of monthly courses. So the question is, what about women who are too old to have a monthly menstrual cycle? For them, the iddah, prescribed period, so how long they have to wait after they've divorced before they can consummate a marriage with another guy. If you have doubt about their periods, is 3 months. And for those who have no courses, i.e. they're still immature. These are girls who aren't old enough to have a monthly menstrual cycle. Their iddah prescribed period is 3 months, likewise, except in case of death. So anyway,
he admits it right there. Good boy. Good boy.
Yeah. So here you have the Quran allowing sex with prepubescent girls. That's what he's pointing out. What he's saying is say if we don't have sex with a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old, it's not because of the Quran. The Quran allows it. Saying we have to go outside of the Quran, look at the example of Muhammad and recognize that you might need to wait longer. As with the case of Aisha, he waited until she was 9.
Good boy.
So, guys, this is talking about sex with prepubescent girls. You have a Muslim right there saying, "Oh, prepubescent, it's halal according to the Quran," and you have this idiot on Piers Morgan saying, "No Muslim would defend this." Absolutely terrible people here.
Good boy.
And just the smugness of pretending that he knows what he's talking about.
What you're smoking, but I'd suggest that you do a course in religious.
She's going to smoke him now in a second.
What?
She's going to smoke him now.
Okay, let's see.
Sexual violence. So I might just crack on with that. I don't know what planet you're living on or what you're smoking, but I'd suggest that you do a course in religious studies before you start chatting.
Well, thank you for the ad.
And by the way, guys, this is he's trained in logic, so he knows he had an irrelevant appeal to authority. Everything else he said was a straw man. He's attacking things she didn't even say. He should know that. If he has a PhD in the philosophy of religion, I do not expect him at all to know the Quran. That's fine. I would expect him to know basic logic, which he keeps violating every time he opens his mouth. And then watch what he does, leans in.
Hominem attacks. I'm sure that means you have a really strong argument, but I think
she called
the
him
young
out for ad
working
hominem.
class girls who probably grew up in the same areas that you did would beg to differ. I don't understand what you're saying. I've read the Quran. I've seen what's in there. Even if you don't think that my interpretation of the Quran is correct, I would point you to, I don't know, what countries have the most issues when it comes to child brides and raping of young girls and children. It's obviously a systemic cultural problem with Islam. It's not a problem that is contained or unique to the West. And I don't know, last time I checked, this whole grooming gang phenomenon is what contained primarily to Muslim men, and it really only started when you started seeing mass migration waves.
I just think this is so dangerous. This is so dangerous what you're
Did you hear
saying.
her? It's so dangerous. What's so dangerous? What's so dangerous? You had no problem. What about white people? What about this? What about that? What about this? You have no problem with any of that. As soon as someone says Islam, it's so dangerous you have to shut it down. What? Why not evaluate what she said and see if she's correct or not?
She gave a good response. She gave a goodish response.
But it's dangerous.
It was a good response, and it should put this guy in his place for being such a smug freaking idiot. But then, because the response was good, it's oh my gosh, this is just so dangerous. This is just so dangerous. It's just so dangerous.
Can't talk
We
about
be
things if they're
talking-
dangerous.
Can't be talking about this. Yeah, we know it is true, and we know it is happening. But excuse me, this is just so dangerous. I mean, let us also point out that even if we agree with it, we also want to point out that there are lots of good Muslims, and I personally know lots of good Muslims, and many of them are very, very good. And of course, we don't mean to offend them. Shut up. She said what she just said is completely correct. What she said is completely correct. There's this smug guy has been put in his place, and I wish that I can one day debate this guy to humiliate him even much further than that. She is correct, and for those asking about her name, Natalie Winters, check her out. Natalie Winters. That's where you can check her out. And for those who want to check out the other guy, his name is what's his name? Jack Symes. In fact, you could find him on Twitter and possibly tag him and tell him what you think about him, or send him a message and ask him to clarify, and give you a verse, chapter, and verse number in the Quran where it says that it's absolutely condemned to I don't know, have sexual coercion or pedophilia or anything like that.
Yeah, I think we can stop this video there. I don't know what happens after this, but we got the main point there, which is people saying it has nothing to do with Islam, or that even if it does have something to do with Islam, you shouldn't talk about it because that might hurt our diversity or something like that.
Gotta be a good boy.
Yeah, what I want to do is take a quick look at some of the Muslim sources here, and we'll see why you might think that there's a problem. Jack. Hey Jack, here's some reasons we think that this actually does have something to do with the Muslim sources. So, you have Surah 98 here. Check out verse 6, Jack. Part of the problem. Verily, those who disbelieve in the religion of Islam, the Quran, and Prophet Muhammad, from among the people of the Scripture, Jews and Christians, and al-mushrikun, will abide in the fire of hell. They are the worst of creatures. We are the worst of creatures. That little 12-year-old girl is one of the worst creatures in the world. She's lower than a pig. She's lower than a dog. And it took me all of 2 seconds. It took me all of 2 seconds to see some confirmation of this. So here, check this out. It's a recent video by a Muslim da'i.
Humans without the guidance of Islam are worse than animals. Because at least a dog will know that there is one creator. But me and you, if we didn't have Islam, subhanallah. Kuffar, what they get up to because they don't have Islam is crazy. So please use this as a reminder to be grateful and say alhamdulillah that you have Islam. Because guess who doesn't have Islam? The kuffar. And what do? They eat the blood of a pig. Humans without the guidance of Islam are worse than animals.
Worse than animals, worse than animals, worse than animals. Why? Because we bang little kids. No, that's halal. Because they eat pig, which our religion condemns. You see, this proves that they're lower than animals. Guys, they sit here and you can see directly in their sources why they say things. They say them. If you were to bring this up to any of the dopes that Pierce brings in for his panels, they would go, oh no, it's too dangerous. Or they would say, oh, it's a lie, it's not true. Or they say, well, what about this white school shooter then, eh? Gosh, what are these people?
But David, don't we have to point out that we don't mean all of them. There are also many good ones. And so
that's
of course
true, everyone. That's true. Thank you for pointing that out, AP. I just want to confirm that we're not talking about all people, everyone, in case you ever got that impression by nothing we've ever said. But you've just been trained to say, whenever anyone criticizes one thing about Islam, we go, oh, but you're saying every Muslim in the world. You've been conditioned to say that, so.
And of course, we don't mean all people. We just want to clarify that we don't mean all of them. There are lots of good ones as well. Shut up.
What about this? So this is Surah 70. It's talking about bad people up at the top here. Man was created very impatient, irritable, blah 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 blah. But who are the good guys? Check out verse 22 of Surah 70. Jack. Who are the good people? Except those devoted to salat prayers, those who remain constant in their salat prayers, and those in whose wealth there is a known right. For the beggar who asks, and for the unlucky who has lost his property and wealth and his means of living has been strained, and those who believe in the day of recompense, and those who fear the torment of their Lord. Verily, the torment of their Lord is that before which none can feel secure, and those who guard their chastity, he's talking about the good people, those who guard their chastity, i.e. private parts, from illegal sexual acts, except with their wives, and the women, say, slaves and captives whom their right hands possess. Who are the good guys? The ones who protect their chastity. They guard their private parts from illegal sexual acts. They guard their chastity, except with their wives and the ladies they've taken as their captives and slaves.
They slaves.
See the problem? See the problem there, buddy? You're talking about, oh no, the Quran doesn't. Wait, it talks about you taking captives and slaves and using them, right? So here we have Surah 23. Surah 23, successful indeed are the believers, those who offer their salat prayers with all solemnity and full of submissiveness, and those who turn away from all sorts of various bad things that Allah has forbidden, and those who pay zakat, and those who guard their chastity, i.e. private parts, from illegal sexual acts, except from their wives or the captives and slaves that their right hands possess, for then they are free from blame. You're free from blame if you have sex with who? Your wives or your captives and slaves. Understand, everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Understand this so far?
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at another passage. So this is the hadith. Sahih al-Bukhari 5210. Narrated Sa'id al-Khudri, we got female captives in the war booty, and we used to do coitus interruptus with them. Guys, you know what coitus interruptus is? It's azl in Arabic. Coitus interruptus. That's where, how do I put this for young viewers?
It's called pull-out game.
That's a little too graphic. It means no skeet in the coot, right?
Oh. Okay.
No skeet in the coot. You pull out your pee, and then no skeet in the coot. Okay, so guys, you do not finish the sexual act. You pull out ahead of time, as AP pointed out. So
He said pull out ahead.
what's wrong with you? So we got female captives in the war booty, and we used to do coitus interruptus with them. So we asked Allah's messenger about it. Oh, yeah. What's wrong with you? So we asked Allah's messenger about it. About what? About coitus interruptus. And he said, do you really do that? Repeating the question thrice. There is no soul that is destined to exist, but will come into existence till the day of resurrection. So he doesn't object to them having sex with the captives that they just captured. He does have a problem theologically with coitus interruptus because you think you can control who's born and who's not. So you also have a scientific error in here. Muhammad thinks that it's completely irrelevant to whether someone gets pregnant, whether you have put semen inside of her. This is the hikmah. The hikmah. Muhammad knows that it's completely irrelevant whether you skeet inside a woman, whether she will get pregnant or not. Let's read another one. This is Sahih Muslim. Oh, Abu Sa'id, did you hear Allah's messenger mentioning al-azl? That's the Arabic term, azl. That's their version of coitus interruptus. That's no skeet in the coot. He said, yes, and added, we went out with Allah's messenger on the expedition of the Bil Mustalik and took captive some excellent Arab women. Oh, they were smoking. And we desired them, for we were suffering from the absence of our wives. But at the same time, we also desired ransom for them. Look at what's going on. Are these women they're planning to marry? No, they want to ransom these women. There are other passages in Ibn Ishaq that talks about them taking the women and then trading them for weapons and so on. So they want to get paid from these women, but they also want to have sex with them. So what are they doing? It's, okay, we want to have sex with them. We don't want to get them pregnant. So it says, we're suffering from the absence of our wives, but at the same time, we also desired ransom for them. So we decided to have sexual intercourse with them, but by observing azl, withdrawing the male sexual organ before emission of semen to avoid conception. See how easy that was, AP? You could have just said that.
Yeah.
But we said, we are doing an act, whereas Allah's messenger is amongst us. Why not ask him? Good plan. So we asked Allah's messenger, and he said, it does not matter if you do not do it, practice pull out, for every soul that is to be born up to the day of resurrection will be born. So again, his only objection is to the idea that you think you can control who gets pregnant and who doesn't.
And by the way, this does not apply to goats.
Yeah, it doesn't. Now everyone knows. Okay, we got three more passages here. So here we go. Surah 4, verse 24. And all married women are forbidden unto you. Talking about men. Married women are forbidden to you. Makes sense, right? Married women are forbidden to you. Save those captives whom your right hands possess. Wait, you can't approach a married woman for sex. Makes sense. That would be adultery. Save those captives whom your right hands possess. Wait a minute. You can, as long as they're among the captives. So if you capture a married woman, you can have sex with her. That's interesting. That's interesting stuff. Let's go ahead and see what we have here. Here's the hadith that gives the historical background, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the historical background. This is Sunan Abu Dawud. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri said, the apostle of Allah sent a military expedition to Autas on the occasion of the Battle of Hunain. They met their enemy and fought them. They defeated them and took them captives. Some of the companions of the apostle of Allah were reluctant to have relations with the female captives because of their pagan husbands. So guys, if you don't know the historical background here, we read the passages about them taking sex slaves and practicing azl with them because they wanted to ransom the women or sell them and so on. So they didn't want them to get pregnant. They knew they were allowed to do that. Those were situations where they killed the men in battle and then the wives are left over. In this battle, they captured the men and the women. And so now they're thinking, okay, well, these aren't just women whose husbands are dead because we killed them. These are women whose husbands are still alive. What do we do here? Because now it's adultery. Now we're not just having sex with our widowed sex slaves. Now we're having sex with women who are still married. So isn't that adultery? So they waited. So look, some of the companions of the apostle of Allah were reluctant to have relations with the female captives because of their pagan husbands. So Allah the Exalted sent down the Quranic verse, and all married women are forbidden unto you, save those captives whom your right hand possess. This is to say they are lawful for them when they complete their waiting period. Everyone get that? Captives. You can take captives.
And what do you do with those captives?
You can have sex with your captives. It's not just your wives, it's your captives. It's in the Quran, it's in the Hadith. We read Surah 4, verse 24. Married women are forbidden unless they're your captives. And then what happens when we look at the historical background? It's specifically, hey, we captured these women, but their husbands are here. This is adultery. What are we supposed to do? No, you can have sex with them too. So you can have sex with your captives, even married captives. It's all fine, right? Another Quran verse here.
When a man and a goat love each other.
When a man loves a goat. Surah 33, verse 50. This is specifically about Muhammad. O Muhammad, verily we have made lawful to you your wives, to who's lawful for Muhammad to have sex with. We have made lawful to you your wives, to whom you have paid their mahar, bridal money given by the husband to his wife at the time of marriage, and those captives or slaves whom your right hand possesses. Who can Muhammad have sex with? His wives and his slave girls, his sex slaves. We haven't, guys, you see this in the Muslim sources, the story of Safiya after they conquered the Jews at the Battle of Khaybar. Muhammad and his companions tortured and killed a man, Kanana, and then Muhammad takes his wife, Safiya, as his bride. One of his Muslim companions actually stood guard outside the tent all night in case she tried to kill him. So what did he do? He tortured and killed a man and then takes the guy's smoking hot wife back to his tent to have sex with her.
That's what you do.
Nothing to be concerned about here. Nothing to be concerned about here. And then I'll just put up this from Tabari. This is another example of one of Muhammad's. This is an example of one of Muhammad's sex slaves. The Prophet admired Ibrahim. That's Mary the Copt. She gave birth to a son named Ibrahim who died shortly, but they called her Ibrahim, who was fair-skinned and beautiful. He lodged her in Al-Aliyah at the property nowadays called the Mashraba of Ibrahim. He used to visit her there and ordered her to veil herself, but he had intercourse with her by virtue of her being his property.
So you're my property.
Yeah, the footnote there says that this shows that she wasn't married, she was a concubine. So she was his sex slave. He had intercourse with her by virtue of her being his property. So guys, you have in the Quran and the Hadith, you can take captives. You can take women and girls as your sex slaves. Remember, Daniel Hakikaju said there's no age limit. There's no minimum age for this. Didn't he say that in his debate with IP? So there's no minimum age for taking a sex slave.
This is so dangerous. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's so dangerous to be pointing this out, right? So guys, now put all of this together. Non-Muslims are the worst of creatures. Allah doesn't love them. Allah says he doesn't love them. Allah says in the Quran, he has no love for unbelievers, right? So Allah has no love for these 12-year-old girls. These 12-year-old girls are the worst of creatures. They're garbage. They're lower than insects. Does Allah care a whole lot if you squash a bug as you're walking along? No. He cares even less about these non-Muslim women and girls. So take that as one idea. Then the fact that you can take sex slaves in Islam. And then what's the third component? The third component is, in Islam, as we've already seen, it's perfectly acceptable to have sex with children. Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl. The Quran allows you to have sex with prepubescent girls. We already saw Muhammad Hijab saying you can't go around that. You can't go around the fact that the Quran does not establish puberty as some sort of requirement. Put all of those ideas together. The non-Muslim girls are complete garbage. We can take them captive and do what we want, and it doesn't matter how old they are. Put those ideas together. What do you get? Hint, grooming gangs. Now, the only thing you can say in response is, well, the Quran doesn't talk about going to some other land and then, just taking their girls and doing what you want with their girls and so on. You're right. The Quran doesn't specifically talk about that. Why? Because they had no concept of that. They had no concept. In other words, why do they have to conquer the people first before taking the women and girls as their sex slaves? Why do they have to conquer them first? Because people would have protected their women and girls from there. You had to conquer the people first, then take the women and the girls. You had to conquer them first. Why? Because even the pagans would have protected their daughters from these guys. They had no of a land where you can go, and they won't protect the daughters. They had no idea what you were talking about. What if you'd said this to them? Say, hey, we keep doing this thing where we go out, we conquer the 10, we beat all the men, and then we take the women and girls as our sex slaves. Yeah, of course, that's what you have to do to get the girls. Okay, well, there's this other land over here. Did you know that we can actually go over there? And if we actually get over there, they'll basically open the doors for us to rape and gang rape and drug and pimp their little girls who are the worst of creatures. They're complete garbage before Allah. And Allah doesn't care what we do with these girls. He actually likes it because we're showing our religious contempt for them. But they're not going to lift a finger. In fact, they'll actually help us. In fact, they'll help us cover it up. We can get away with it forever. They had no idea that sort of thing was even a possibility. What this means is that the police and the leaders and so on, and even the people who look the other way, they're worse than the most pagans Muslims could have even imagined. And that's another reason they have no problem doing this to you. If that's how you are, you're so pathetic culturally. You will not protect your own daughters. You are proving the Quran right, that you are truly the worst of all creatures, and therefore we'll just walk in and take your daughters. There's nothing you're going to do about it because you're garbage before Allah. You're garbage to us. You mean nothing to us. That's what they're saying. And what happens when you try for 5 seconds to point this out? But what? This is so dangerous. But what about the little white kid who going to shoot his school up? What about that? What about that? Change the topic. Absolutely reprehensible.
We have to clarify that we are not talking about all Muslims.
We're not. We're not.
They're good ones as well. There are lots of good ones, and we're not talking about every single one of them, of course.
So, guys, we just looked at what the Muslim sources say. Do you think the Muslim sources have something to do with the problem that we just looked at? I would say it do. I would say it does. You can't bring it up. You can't say anything about it. You'll get shouted down. Not just by Keir Starmer. It's not just that you'll get locked up. You'll get silenced still to this day by your journalists, by your educators, by your entertainers. They will stop you. This is so dangerous talking like this. How dare you? It's gonna be a bloodbath against Muslims. Can't you just look the other way and let all these little girls get raped and gang raped so that we don't hurt their feelings? All right.
Maybe it just has to come to different circumstances.
Weird situation. All right, guys. Well, took us a while to actually get to the takeaway, but you saw there, you have this condescending prick who acts like his PhD in philosophy of religion means he understands the Quran. He knows nothing about the Quran. He exhibited that. We know a little bit about the Quran, and we showed you what the Quran and the Hadith actually say. What do you think? Does it have something to do? Does the Quran have something to do with the grooming gangs thinking that that's okay? I say so. All right. Let's go to these super chats and we'll head out. Look how Mehdi squirmed and rolled his eyes over the grooming gangs on Pierce, playing the brown Muslim victim card well. Mehdi makes my flesh creep. We are going to have to check that out. AP Gaming, when the Global Dizzle Initiative will be humiliated by the Prophet of Nod.
That's a nice Command and Conquer reference. That's a game that I grew up with. Soon, inshallah, I should start a gaming channel.
You heard it here. And no one dared disturb the sound of silence. Fool said I, you do not know silence like a cancer grows.
You did point out one thing earlier, which is that that the British people are even more wicked than the pagans of pre-Islamic Arabia.
Well, you said they're all stupid.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that British people as a collective, so the United Kingdom, Great Britain, British people are. I mean, if I had to choose between the pre-Islamic pagan Arabs and British people, I would choose the pre-Islamic pagan Arabs. You know,
but what about all the British people and a cow?
I would choose the cow. I'm not going to eat a bunch of British people. Why would I do that?
You're gonna get in all sorts of trouble from British people. I'm starting to think multiculturalism is not the end goal. Multi is the tool. It is being used for something. I think it is to somehow increase growth. You can view it as a tool. Ali Dawa would love this stream right now. I'm not sure when you posted this, but probably when we're talking about doing stuff to kids. I must say the left's version of The Handmaid's Tale had a scorcher of a surprise twist ending. What, banging all the kids? I was raped by Muslim, harassed by countless, Montreal taken over by them now. Men like this who laugh at how unsafe we feel makes me sick. Love you guys.
I'm sorry that happened, and wish you all the best, and I hope for a future where Western people get their crap together and their senses in order and start taking care of their people as much as the pre-Islamic pagans did.
I should make a video about that. Like you guys are actually, from an Islamic perspective, already like extremely messed up. You guys are worse than the pagans because at least the pagans would protect you had to fight the pagans to take their daughters.
This is why I posted earlier today in the morning that you see when somebody else made this point that there was this screenshot that I shared which I thought was hilarious when Mohammed Hijab made this post where he said that if we increase our birth rate then we will soon be so many people and so many people here and so many people there. Our number is our strength.
Yeah, and then you gave the
And
most evil response I've ever, the most cold-blooded, heartless response I've ever seen in my life.
No, I saw somebody else posted a response to that and said, if numbers are your strength, then why couldn't you free Palestine?
Yeah,
And
that
then
was that was a good point.
Somebody else in response to that said, because they their pants when it comes to Israel.
I saw that. That was all funny.
I thought that was brilliant.
That
Very,
was
very,
brilliant.
very nice. And that gave me the idea of that gave me the thought just of pointing out how it is real. It is true that when it comes to Israel, the Islamists, they are horrified. They are absolutely terrified. They can't quite play the same games with Israel. They are terrified of Israel. They are scared of Israel. They run and hide. They don't even feel bothered by the West. They don't feel bothered at all by Western police, by Western authorities, by Western governments. They don't care. It's like a fly on their shoulder. That's it. Just a small annoyance.
I thought you were talking about your horrible, cold-blooded, heartless response when Hijab said, but it's our numbers. And you just said, but numbers can be reduced. That was messed up. You, sir, are cold as ice.
I think my response is almost ratioing his post. It's funny.
Searching Deeper says, I am shocked at the British. This convinces me there are demons behind Islam. Not only behind them, behind, I think it's like there can be demonic, like for people to be this intent on not exposing the people who are raping their daughters. I think that that's demonic as well. The British, being atheists, have no power to resist evil spirits. Good point. They aren't going to do anything scary.
There is a demon behind me. Come and kill him.
Nice try, Turk. In your face. Did not see the OnlyFans maiden's tale coming.
Powerful.
I wouldn't mind burying my Zabiba and her Zabuba. Just kidding. Well, you better be kidding because that would not be appropriate on this channel. AP, don't crash out yet.
What crashing out, man?
Dr. Jack Symes was the man on Pastor Sempa's computer in Uganda. Deep cut. I don't know what that means.
I have no idea what that means either.
Natalie, eye candy, but also mind candy. Natalie, eye candy, but also mind candy. That's funny. Atheists inherit peaceful country. Atheists import millions from violent failed states. Atheists, our country is failing. We cannot understand why. Well, it's not just atheists. It's a lot of other people too.
It's not just atheists. It's a
bunch of people.
It is very much the secularization, but it's also in general Western people, Western atheists, seculars, Christians as well, and so on.
Yeah, it's I was talking about it when you had your brief exodus earlier, AP, but I was pointing out that in order to have multiple cultures existing side by side, you kind of have to you have to dial up your tolerance, and you have to lower your lower the degree to which you actively like lash out at people who disagree with you and so on. But if you go too far, you lower it so much that they could be like raping your daughters in front of you and stuff, and you wouldn't lift a finger because well, who am I to judge? Who am I? No, I don't want to be racist or anything. Happy New Year, gents. You two helped me steer clear of Islam during the time it was being influenced. I was being influenced by Dawah and their deceptive tactics. Thank you. It's what we do.
Powerful.
It's what we do. Jews are just 2% of the U.S. population, but make up the majority of victims of religious hate crimes in America. Yep. And they're way at the top. More Christian victims than Muslims. Can we get a music video for AP's WAP remix?
I'm working on it. I'm finalizing the the remix. It turned out very, very nice, actually.
That's WAB. That's WAB. That's the weak book. But
Yeah,
I was suggesting
Weak
as a
book.
follow-up, Weak Prophet.
Oh yeah, that should be done too. But I'm working on a WAB remix. It's almost done. I think I have come to a decision to
Prophet,
have a final
Prophet,
version.
Prophet fits the meter though better.
Yeah, but yeah, that's a future project as well, inshallah.
I bet it'd be dope. AP Music, everyone, be sure to follow it. Pierce says it's just British Pakistanis. No, it's Iraqis in Malmo, Syrians in Germany, Somalis in Holland, Moroccans in Paris. It's a Quran problem. The lady shown is fair game for showing cleavage. Yeah, it's interesting because different countries have focused on importing different sort of communities from different areas and so on. And you keep getting this problem. It's not just these countries. It's places like Australia and so on. I've seen the exact same thing. So, how is it racist to expose a demonic ideology made up of 1.8 billion people of every race? We hate the demonic ideology, not the people. The NOLA guy wasn't an Arab, New Orleans guy, wasn't an Arab, but, right, he had the name. There are three types of lies. Lies, big lies, and statistics. Mark Twain.
Beast.
Giovanni says, I saw a video of Tommy Robinson defending the Tate brothers. Certainly made me question his motives. Oh, I said the same thing about Elon because Elon did the same thing. I mean, not to the same extent, but guys, it is easy especially if you're listening to Andrew Tate and not following the court trials and so on. It's very easy. We're all familiar with it because we've watched. We've gone through it. We've done multiple live streams where we went through it. We follow Milk Bar and Murdered by Crayons and so on, who constantly bring up the latest on Tate. If you're not doing that and you've just heard, oh, Tate, blah, blah, blah. Oh, he's being attacked just for his great, impact on young people and so on. Even smart people like Elon can fall for that idiotic nonsense. But it's not all hope is lost. You can actually respond to that. In other words, you can call out Elon. This is one of the good features of our era. You can call out nonsense pretty quick like. After hearing this debate on Piers Morgan, I choose the cow. Great job on Jake's channel, AP. Jake's channel.
Thank you. Jake Rattlesnake.
Oh, yeah, Rattlesnake. This is about the Labour Party trading chav girls for postal voting Muslim bloc. They run the councils. This is about power. Check out Raja Mia. Arya says, Indian Muslims are much less likely to commit crimes like that. They live in a pluralistic society growing up, so Pakis and Bengalis are more prone to do this. So I have to say a cultural element is there. I agree that the cultural element is there.
Of course there's a cultural element.
Yeah.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
But it's
Guys,
not inclusive.
Yeah. Saying that something... Guys, a culture is a mixture of things. One of those things is like the dominant religion in the culture. That's a factor in the culture. It's just like Germany can be very culturally different from the UK, can be very culturally different from the United States, despite the fact that Christianity has played a big role. You look at the values in the society, you can see how they've been impacted by the teachings of Jesus. You also see significant differences. So we're saying, yes, things vary from culture to culture, but there's a reason you end up with these things popping up in places as culturally diverse as Nigeria and Iraq and Pakistan and so on.
My Andrew Tate is a rapist post is at 120,000 likes, 3 million views.
Everyone, before you turn in for tonight, if you're on X, and you have not checked out AP's viral tweet exposing Andrew Tate, definitely do that and be sure to share it and share your own thoughts on whether Tate is the greatest man in the world or not. Raj here says, I got a fever and the only prescription is more shofar. It's true.
Powerful.
Let's get David and AP on the Piers Morgan show. Yeah, good luck with that. I have a feeling that the fabric of reality will rip harder than Mo ripping Aisha's. Very distasteful. Sahih Al-Boob Kari.
Everybody always wants to talk about poop.
Chef AP's next specialty dish, marbleized Jack's meet decorated with vegan shredded PhD in philosophy of BSism.
That would be very nice.
Yeah, we want to talk. I even invited Jack when I posted like noon that we're going to be doing this, and I invited Jack. She has a great set of arguments. She looks like she has bags of fun all the time. I bet she makes some fire tater tots. Overall, a great gal. Stop objectifying. Man, this Jack guy blows. I would know. It's from Destiny. Think he got a PhD in smug, smarmy ball bag studies. Sounds about right. I just saw your debate announcement with Alex O'Connor. Oh, is that out? That been announced? I can't wait to see it, and interested that he took this very topic. Yeah, he chose the topic.
Which
he
topic?
wanted to debate. He wanted to debate whether Jesus claimed to be God.
Oh, nice.
I said okay.
That's interesting. Why did he choose that topic?
I don't know, but apparently he's interested in it. If he's interested in it, it's a topic I'm interested in too. So that's good. So yeah, it's going to be cool, guys. That'll be at DebateCon next month, middle of next month. I think the 15th. AP will be debating. I'll be debating. Inspiring Philosophy will be debating. Should be a good, fun time.
Why is he using a photo of me where I look like a child?
Oh no. Yeah, he'll get one from like years ago and never update it. To hell with you, Colonel Desmond Travers, if you don't remember the Babington plot and Romans 11 nowadays, for the sake of your island and your soul, know the people live around you.
This is very cool. Yeah, it has been announced. It's all been announced. All of the debates, the planned debates are out there. It's happening next month. Everything's scheduled. No, some are actually missing. Oh boy, this is very funny.
What?
15th are our debates. The next day, the 16th, are debates on different topics.
Yeah.
Including...
That's how he normally does. He has like religion debates one day and then like political weird topics.
Yeah, including interesting topics.
Mm-hmm. A couple more. Yes, that's the word. AP did coitus interruptus with Aiden's worldview and position during the debate. I enjoyed watching. Muslim wizard pranking a couple. Coitus interruptus. Muslim wizard. Coitus interruptus. I know this might upset you, but I think this channel could be a little Islamophobic.
Are you sure about that?
No, because whenever Islam comes up, we instantly start talking about what about the little white school shooters. No wonder they show no regret or empathy when trialed. Additionally, their families behave like they are the victims, their males being perfectly moral.
Powerful.
That is true. Love to see you guys back. People are cold. Nice. AP, I really liked your nuanced case on Israel recently.
Nuanced?
Your nuanced case on Israel. Not like your nuanced case on the people of Great Britain.
That sounds like a... I'm not sure if Isa actually means it, because I don't remember being nuanced. but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Big fan, thank you. And thank you, big fan. Cristobal says, I also choose the cow. God bless you, Dizzle and AP. Thank you. We should raise money for someone to put the worst Quran verses on several billboards around their city. I don't think they'd allow it. I don't think they'd allow it. AP, check your DMs, man. Sent you a vid. That's great. That's great to watch. Happy New Year's, you guys.
Inshallah.
I want to check your DM once in a while. Chav equals council house environs, working class.
Beast.
And at AP, it's on, as far as your DMs, it's on Twitter. All right. All right, guys. Oh, man, my voice is shot. That's good because because we need to come to an end right now. Not sure what we got coming up.
We need to come to an end. I'm not going to come to an end. Yeah, tomorrow, we're going live tomorrow, I believe. And tomorrow I want to look at one of these topics. I might do another live stream to have a closer look at what Natalie Winters had to say, because I didn't fully understand everything she was saying today. Just kidding. I might want to talk about some of the Mehdi Hassan stuff.
Oh, yeah. That might be good to check out.
And I also want to look at Elon Musk's discussion with Alice Weidel, the leader of the German AfD party, but not sure how and when we will do that.
We shall figure it out, ladies and gentlemen. All right, everyone. And the main takeaway, ladies and gentlemen, the sources. We went through the sources, learned some of those sources, and respond to some of this stuff. And quit backing down. Don't back down from people who try to control your behavior just by calling you names and so on. Sticks and stones. Sticks and stones. Catch you all next time. But don't kiss the stone, because it can't save you.
Don't kiss the stone. Don't.